afternoon and welcome to our August 24th Board Business Meeting. Welcome to our board members, MCPS staff, members of our community who are joining us here today, and those who are watching this meeting via live stream. Now let's begin the meeting by standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I will now call the roll to recognize that we have a quorum. Mr. Saeed?
Hello, Sami Saeed, representing students. Happy to be here.
Good afternoon, everyone. Lynn Harris, at-large member.
Good morning, Rebecca Spondrowski, District 2.
Good morning, Shebra Evans. Happy almost first day of school to everybody.
Actually, it's afternoon. We've been here so long. Good afternoon. Brenda Wolf, District 5.
Good afternoon. Buenas tardes. Grace Rivera Oven, representing District 1.
Good afternoon. Julie Yang, District 3. Good to see everyone.
I also want to recognize a special guest in our audience. Ms. Patricia Armstrong, if you could stand up, is the board's new coordinator for legislative affairs. She will begin officially on Monday, but she is joining us today for a preview of our business meetings. Please join me in welcoming Mrs. Armstrong. Now we can begin the meeting with the approval of the revised agenda.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hands. And that's unanimous. Okay, we are moving to agenda item number 3, the Human Resources and Development Report. Dr. Mune.
Good afternoon. I move forward the monthly Human Resources and Development Report for approval.
Move approval. Oh, you're moving approval, so I guess I'll second it. I'm not sure that's how we do it, but.
All in favor, raise your hands. And that is unanimous.
Thank you. I have 2 death resolutions that I will share with you today. The death on July 7th, 2023 of Mr. James W. Funk, School Business Administrator from Montgomery Blair High School, has deeply saddened the staff, students, and members of the Board of Education. During the 17-plus years Mr. Funk worked for Montgomery County Public Schools, he skillfully managed Montgomery Blair High School's budget, accounting, finance, and operations. He created positive interpersonal relationships with students and staff to ensure a safe, creative, and nurturing learning environment. Mr. Funk was active in creating a sustainable culture of professional growth. He worked to support building service and cafeteria managers to ensure they had the resources necessary to perform their jobs. As a result of his efforts, staff was effectively trained in business processes and on school equipment. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the members of the Board of Education and the Superintendent of Schools express our sorrow at the death of Mr. Funk and extend our deepest sympathy to his family.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hands. And that's unanimous.
Thank you. The death on July 11th, 2023 of Mr. Isaiah Thomas, building service worker at Montgomery Village Middle School, has deeply saddened the staff, students, and members of the Board of Education. During the 4+ years Mr. Thomas worked for MCPS, he fully understood the valuable role he played in the success of students and staff by providing a clean and safe learning environment. Mr. Thomas was dedicated to fulfilling the responsibilities of his position and was successful in meeting the needs of the school and community. Mr. Thomas demonstrated his professionalism at all times. He was an effective communicator, an excellent team player, and was willing to help whenever needed. Mr. Thomas was very respectful of his colleagues, students, and staff. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the members of the Board of Education and the Superintendent of Schools express our sorrow at the death of Mr. Thomas and extend deepest sympathy to his family.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hands. That's unanimous.
Thank you. Today, I bring forward 3 appointments to the Board of Education. And our first appointment is a recommended appointment for Ms. Janine G. Backey as Director for the Blueprint for Maryland's Future, Office of the Deputy Superintendent. Janine, you may stand. Lovely. Joining her today are Roberta Holland, retired MCPS schools teacher, Marita Sherburne, retired MCPS principal, and Pinky Pomnan, MCPS fiscal specialist. Ms. Backey has more than 30 years of educational experience, 13.5 years of which are with MCPS as an instructional specialist, director, and most recently, implementation coordinator for the Blueprint for Maryland's Future. Ms. Backey looks forward to providing leadership in the development of an MCPS Blueprint Division team and in continuing to work closely with MCPS staff, stakeholders, and collaboratively with Montgomery County government colleagues to advance the work of the Blueprint for all of our students. Shout outs to her mother, Brenda Morgan Backey, sisters Aaliyah and Shoshana, and her family members who are watching online.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hands. And that's unanimous.
Thank you. Our next appointment is moving forward, appointment of recommendation for Ms. Holly A. Van Pembroek as supervisor for school library media programs in the Office of Curriculum and Instruction and the Office of the Chief Academic Officer and Deputy Superintendent. Joining her today is her wife and son, in addition to her parents. Ms. Van Pembroek has been employed with MCPS for 22 years as a teacher, media specialist, and most recently, pre-K-12 content specialist, school library media programs. Ms. Van Pembroek looks forward to continuing her work with the school libraries in MCPS. Shout out to the wonderful school library media programs team, Andrea, Margie, Sujata, and Sandy, who are in the auditorium.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hands. And that's unanimous.
Thank you. Our next recommended appointment is appointment of Mr. Jared Velasquez Guider as supervisor in the Department of English Language Learners and Multilingual Education in the Office of Curriculum and Instruction and the Office of the Deputy Superintendent. Joining him today are his parents, William and Iris, and his cousin, Gisela. Mr. Jared Velasquez Guider has been employed with MCPS for 7 years as an English for Speakers of Other Languages teacher and most recently, pre-K-12 content specialist for English for Speakers of Other Languages in the Department of English Learners and Multilingual Education. Mr. Velasquez Guider looks forward to continuing to serve and enrich learning environments that empower our linguistically gifted students to thrive academically and personally. Shout outs to his sister Veronica and family and friends watching virtually for their unwavering support and encouragement. A special shout out to his educator friends here and in Florida and leaders he worked with throughout the years, and of course the amazing team he currently works with for their words of encouragement and support.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hands. That's unanimous.
Thank you.
We have some recognitions, Dr. McKnight.
Yes, we do. Okay. Okay, we do have two recognitions that I'd like to share. The first being recognition of National Suicide Prevention Week. Montgomery County Public Schools is committed to the mental and emotional health of all students through instruction, prevention, and awareness. The American Association of Suicidology and the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention have designated September 10th through September 16th, 2023 as National Suicide Prevention Week, including World Suicide Prevention Day on September 10th. 2, educate and inform the public about suicide prevention and warning signs of suicide. Reduce stigma related to suicide. Encourage the pursuit of and normalize mental health treatment. To advocate for funding and research on suicide and suicide prevention. To develop innovative and effective treatments. And to emphasize the need to focus on suicide prevention every day of every year. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reports suicide continues to be the second leading cause of death in the United States among individuals between the ages of 10 and 14 years, and the third leading cause of death in the United States among individuals between the ages of 15 and 19 years, and in Maryland for individuals between the ages of 10 and 34. MCPS continues to support the use of the evidence-based Signs of Suicide Prevention Program in all secondary schools to raise awareness of and prevent suicide through education about resources and supports. MCPS places an importance on mental and emotional health as one of the cornerstones of the Be Well 365 Health and Wellness Initiative and throughout the implementation of a system-wide social-emotional lesson. Therefore, be it resolved that the MCPS Board, the Montgomery County Board of Education, and the Superintendent of Schools hereby proclaim September 10th through September 16th, 2023 as National Suicide Prevention Week in MCPS and recommend observance to all of our school communities.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hands. That's unanimous with those present.
Thank you. Our second recognition is recognizing Montgomery County Public Schools Educational Foundation, Incorporated Scholarship Award recipients. The MCPS Educational Foundation is committed to providing opportunities for students graduating from Montgomery County Public Schools by awarding scholarships to those seeking financial assistance to pursue post-secondary education. The Montgomery County Educational Foundation has demonstrated this commitment since 1999 by raising contributions from private sector donors and by partnering with Maryland delegates and senators representing Montgomery County to award need-based scholarships totaling more than $4 million to graduating seniors. The Montgomery County Public Schools Educational Foundation recently concluded another successful annual scholarship fundraising campaign, receiving private contributions totaling more than $2.2 million in the support of scholarships benefiting MCPS graduates in need of financial assistance. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education congratulates the Montgomery County Public Schools Educational Foundation on another successful annual scholarship campaign. And on behalf of the Superintendent of Schools, students, staff, parents, and members of the Board of Education, we extend our congratulations to the class of 2023 MCPS Educational Foundation scholarship recipients named in the attachment. So I'd like to recognize all of the students who are scholarship recipients who are named in the attachment to this resolution. And there are many, and we are very, very proud of them.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hands. And that's unanimous with those present.
Thank you. That completes recognitions.
Okay. Our next agenda item is public comments. Public comments is one of our opportunities to hear the views and receive the advice of community members. Board members will take your comments into consideration, but it's not our practice to take action at this time on issues that are raised. We encourage public input on policy, programs, and practices. This is not the proper avenue to address specific student or employee matters, so we encourage everyone to utilize existing avenues of redress for complaints. This is a public meeting, and we expect the conduct of all speakers and members of the audience to be within the bounds of proper etiquette. Inappropriate personal remarks, rude retorts, and other such behavior is out of order and will not be tolerated. Those who demonstrate disruptive or disrespectful behavior during public comments may be asked to leave the room. Please check our website for information about upcoming board meetings, hearings, and work sessions, including any changes to our board start meeting times. We have 17 people signed up to provide public in-person testimony today. Each speaker will receive 2 minutes for comments. When your name is called, please approach the table, speak clearly and directly into the microphone. 30 seconds prior to the expiration of a speaker's time, a yellow light will go on, accompanied by a beep. Please push the flat button below the microphone to turn it on and begin speaking. Push the same button once more at the sound of the buzzer to turn it off. In addition to our in-person speakers today, we have 3 people signed up to provide video testimony. We will play these submissions once the in-person testimonies have concluded. Copies of testimonies can be found on board docs where they are posted with their other materials for this meeting. So if we could have our first 3 speakers please come forward. That's Jax Kobe, Layla Bityeki, and Saad Baig. Okay, give me 1 second. Okay, then we'll have Dawn Ayana-Kohan.
Hello to Dr. McKnight and members of the MCPS Board of Education. Imagine this. A student at, say, Rocky Hill Middle School, they come out to their best friend and ask him not to tell anyone. He tells people, outing this LGBTQ student to the school. This LGBTQ student starts to get bullied and harassed. They get shoved, berated, and belittled, called a faggot multiple times each day. Eventually, this imaginary student attempts suicide. This story isn't unusual. Data from the Trevor Project shows that an LGBTQ teen in the US attempts suicide every 45 seconds. So this imaginary student who was bullied in middle school, they are the reality. While I've been talking to you, even now, there are students, maybe from MCPS, who have been crushed to the point of hopelessness. And maybe it was bullying from, say, a student whose parent opted them out of diverse books, or maybe something else drove them to despair. But luckily for them, there's hope, because the MCPS Board of Education proclaimed recognition for Suicide Prevention Week. Let's be honest, the words of acknowledgement by you are ineffective at preventing suicide. So in addition to your declaration should be action. So here's what you can do. Promote mental health education, add gender-inclusive restrooms, add anonymous reporting systems, add pronouns into your introductions, peer support programs, promote inclusivity and acceptance, add inclusive curricula, and address microaggressions throughout our schools. One final thing. The imaginary student is actually me. I'm lucky to have survived, and I'm grateful to be here now. In sharing my story, I don't want your pity or your sympathy. I'm in a better mental state now. What I want to come from sharing my story is change. So with National Suicide Prevention Week coming up, I don't just want a proclamation, I want action. Thank you.
Thank you. Leila Bityeki.
Good afternoon, Board of Education. My name is Leila Bachecki, and I'm here representing the organization MSAD, or Maryland Students Against Drugs. I'm here today to talk about experiencing true fear at the last place I thought of, my high school. After all the talk about overdoses going around earlier this year, it took me a little more than 2 weeks to convince myself I'd be safe using a school bathroom. But the courage that I thought I had wasn't enough, because in reality, it took me 2 months to actually go and use my school restroom. When I talked about this with my peers, we connected on the fact that this fear wasn't one we thought we would ever be concerned with, let alone affected by. This was the damage that rising overdose caused in my community. Narcan is a life-saving medication that blocks the effects of narcotics, including fentanyl, in the brain, making it crucial for stopping opioid overdoses. Yet, up until this year, many MCPS residents, including myself, didn't know it was a thing. Some people hold the belief that Narcan condones using drugs in school. My question to those people is, does a fire extinguisher invite students to set things on fire? I want to commend the work MCPS has already been doing with this issue. I am aware about the policy change, which allows students to carry Narcan in schools, as well as distribution efforts and trainings. However, these resources must be sought out by the individual. Since Narcan has the potential to save lives, wouldn't it be better if all students had access to that information at a younger age, especially since the problem is now also affecting younger students? In my written testimony, I have included the links to the MSAD link tree, where you can learn more about what we are doing to bring Narcan education to schools, our petition on this issue, which gained more than 50 responses in just a few days, organizations and individuals alike, and a sample presentation that delves deeper into what we would like to implement into middle school health curriculum. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ms. Ayana-Kohan.
My name is Dawn Ayana-Kohan. I'm the mother of 2 boys in MCPS, one of whom attends Farquhar Middle School. I'm here today to speak not only for myself, but for the countless staff and families you have wronged. My voice is their voice. So let's talk about the culture of distrust and fear that's been created within our school community. Parents don't trust you. Older, wiser students have figured out they can't trust you. And most importantly, the staff don't trust you, and they're afraid that if they speak out, they'll lose their jobs. No one should ever have to be afraid of their employer. It's the reason people here have always stayed silent or speak on the condition of anonymity. They're afraid of what might happen to them or their families. Can you even imagine that? That's the very definition of a hostile work environment. But the truly sad thing is this is nothing new. MCPS has been sweeping things under the rug and doing the central office shuffle for years. You've put your own self-interest and a perceived elitist reputation about protecting, supporting, and believing students and staff for decades. I've talked to current and former staff who have recounted incidents from as far back as the 70s. The corruption and cover-ups run deep. Most recently, this board knowingly promoted a man who sexually harassed, bullied, and intimidated staff at not one but several schools and who was inappropriate with students. There was a unanimous vote to put this man with questionable morals and a complete lack of boundaries in charge of a bigger school with more staff and one that's filled with high school girls. Your lackluster attempts at offering counseling only after this became public has left students and staff traumatized and afraid. No one believes anything that was said about this at the presser on Tuesday. You just added to the distrust. In fact, it's each of you that needs to be held accountable. You're complicit and you should be ashamed. What I do know about this situation is that people around here are finally starting to wake up, and I won't be sleeping until you're all held accountable and start doing right by the school community.
Thank you. If we could have our next three speakers please come forward. Samira Hussain, Dorian Rogers, and Christine Favre-Jay. Doesn't matter. Ms. Hussain, you may begin. Ms. Hussain, you may begin.
Yes, okay. Dr. McKnight, Ms. Silvestri, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Assalamu alaikum, the audience. My name is Samira Hussain, and I am a parent of 4 MCPS graduates and a community advocate. As we are getting ready to new school year, many families have voiced their concerns regarding the children's safety and well-being in the schools. With the upcoming anniversary of the September 11 tragedy, this is a time more hate and violence arise, including physical and verbal assaults against our children, more specifically toward ones with the Muslim faith. I must ask, what strategies are being implemented to protect Muslim, Arab, and Middle Eastern students? I'm coming forward as a mother and as a staff person who has experienced a variety of incidents firsthand along with my own children during the school time and during my work time too. Unfortunately, there are many Muslim and Arab students who do not feel comfortable disclosing their backgrounds and identities out of fear of being excluded and discriminated against. How are we prepared to prevent our students from being bullied and physically abused by their peers? What other measures can we take to prevent these incidents from occurring time and time again? Family engagement is a support, and support is a critical component to student success. I also believe that maintaining proper communication is essential in rebuilding trust, keeping students safe, and ensuring that all are on the same page. Having a committee that focuses on diversity, equity, and inclusion is a great start. We need to hone on the areas that we all allow our students to feel comfortable enough to advocate for themselves, their peers, and their colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you. Dorian Rogers.
Honorable board members, fellow Montgomery County residents, and Marylanders alike. Greetings. My name is Dorian Rogers, pronouns he, him, his, and I'm an MCPS graduate, Clarksburg High School, go Seabird. Late August has generated the same childhood feeling and feeling of electricity, boldness, and personal joy knowing that our schools are opening back up. As an MCPS graduate, I've pursued my education right here in Maryland at Salisbury University, and I came back to the county as state president of Maryland's Youth and College Division of the oldest and the boldest civil rights organization, NAACP, and I have a message. As that energy that I just described when we're talking about a place where our intersectional children can grow up to learn, explore, create, destroy, and most importantly, transform our communities into a more resilient communal family is crucial right here in Montgomery County. A place where our champion educators and our staff from teachers, paraeducators, administrators, security guards, bus drivers, cafeteria staff, and countless others foster and interconnect the learning experiences which many students like me have taken in the places that I've been. The very learning experience which ties critical thinking, problem solving, and how our diverse communities and human experiences reflect to the most important aspect of uplifting our communities is essential as an MCPS graduate. But what we're seeing is attacks against our students, attacks against our teachers, and attacks against our communities, especially based on the conception of divide and conquer when we're talking about attacks against the LGBTQIA community in our curriculums. This is not just interconnecting to the course catalog, but to the learning classroom carpets. When we're reading and when we're doing our historical analysis through our various classes, this reflects what we're supposed to be taking. But it seems as though we're masking the ideas of divide and conquer with, again, excluding our communities rather than bringing them in. How is that being a good neighbor? That's not something that I've learned in MCPS public schools. And these are assaults that are happening around the nation. But the question that I ask you all, as not just board members, as Marylanders alike, is what are we going to do to address it? So we need to stand up for our curriculums, we need to stand up for our students, and we need to stand up for our neighbors because this divide and conquer system can't work. Thank you.
Thank you. Christine Favrier.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Christine Favre. I am a special education teacher in the homeschool model at Roscoe Nix Elementary, a primary school with an innovative school calendar. We, the professional and supporting staff, took an informal survey last year, and over 64% of us agree that we would like to return to the traditional school calendar with the ELO SEAL programs. In the ISY calendar, I have observed that students with IEPs do not have time for improvement of skills similar to the ESY or ELO SEAL programs. In general, students with IEPs can benefit from the remedial support before the start of this new school year. Social emotional growth at this age is extremely important. Students need a mental break to recharge because it affects their ability to absorb and process new information. The benchmark and Eureka curriculum starts on day 1. During the 25 days of instruction in the summer, the IP team collects data on students who do not make progress in the homeschool model. When that data is presented in IP meetings as evidence for additional support or change of placement in the special the special ed department does not consider it as sufficient. Instead, we're advised to continue to track student data until the end of the first marking period. Our students are significantly missing out on the support that they need for progress. So why can't this ISY data be considered when tracking student progress? The high demands of special education and the ISY calendar have led to high employee turnover rates. The homeschool model was understaffed for the last 4 years. There have been high turnover rates for our autism and CAP paraprofessional staff who directly support our students. The staff burnout and high turnover affects our students' growth and achievement. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. If we could have our next 3 speakers please come forward. Mark Hale, Lee Blinder, and Doug Hill. Mark Hale, you may begin.
Okay. I'm a resident and a parent of kids who go to MCPS schools and have been watching the recent addition of books to the literacy curriculum. As parents, we are asking MCPS to reinstate students and parents' opt-out rights as per the United States and Maryland laws, and we are not requesting even a bit of anyone else's rights or freedom. I read through the documents that MCPS has produced to show what the literacy benefits of the books is that other books don't provide, but the evaluation and facts confirm that there are less literacy benefits from these books and they are included for other reasons, so they should be opt-out. Maryland law requires opt-out for materials on the topics of gender identity, sexual orientation. Unfortunately, MCPS has lost a huge public trust due to its deliberate actions, circumventing around the rules set by the state, as well as disregarding multiple testimonials and big rallies requesting for the opt-out. The current mandate excludes students who can't read, explain, and answer the way they are presumed due to their values and religious beliefs, which is deeply personal and meaningful aspect of their identity. But with the mandate, the students can be taken out of class, subject to disciplinary actions, and required to bring parents to the school without any wrongdoing. Letting such students to opt out is the only way, I will repeat, the only way to account for those who would need exemption due to the student's age, maturity, as well as cultural and religious values. Board of Education and Dr. McKnight, parents are losing trust in the public school system under your leadership. The esteemed Montgomery County public school system is turning into political theater under your watch. The students you were supposed to enrich with knowledge have become fertile political battlegrounds. We are asking you to revert from your prolonged disregard and make the school an environment conducive to teaching and learning by reinstating the opt-out. Thank you.
Lee Blinder, you may begin.
Good afternoon, Dr. McKnight, President Sylvester, Vice President Evans, members of the board, and esteemed guests. My name is Lee Blinder. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm the Executive Director of Trans Maryland. In addition, I am incredibly proud to be the co-chair of the Coalition for Inclusive Schools and Communities with my esteemed colleagues. The coalition is devoted to a collective truth, one where our neighbors' differences make for a strong and caring community, one where we may not understand one another and we can still reflect love and care to one another, one where our young people are looking to us as community leaders to understand how to navigate conflict and how to navigate a path of healing long-standing differences, one where our Muslim siblings, our Ethiopian siblings, and our transgender and queer siblings, and those who share multiple identities can be united. In fact, where we must be united, because the lines that separate us are invented. Because we know that there is fear, because we know that there is misunderstanding, and because we know that the way forward is through love. Love envisions a future where no Muslim or Ethiopian student is bullied in school. Love envisions a future where openly LGBTQI+ teachers, students, families, and guardians are embraced as an integral part of our society. What are the building blocks for a thriving community? How do we heal after harsh words and misunderstanding? Let us see our neighbors' differences as the strength of our community, a source of joy, and a way forward for our school system, our county, and our country at a key time. When we do not dialogue directly, it is more challenging to find our similarities, the places where our lives can appear identical. We're all here today because we care deeply about our youth, and our youth are watching. Thank you.
Thank you. Doug Hill, you may begin.
My name is Doug Hill, a long-term resident of Montgomery County and a parent of 2 graduates of MCPS. And I'm here to support your decision not to allow opt-out. During the time when my children were in school, I housed several of their friends who were kicked out of their home for a variety of reasons, and unfortunately one of which disappeared, and we still to this day do not know what happened to them. In the process of creating an opt-out mechanism, you're allowing those individuals who think they're exercising their religious beliefs to create further criticism of those individuals. Mechanically, how does it happen? Where does an opt-out kid go when they're opting out? Do they sit in detention or a separate room? Do they have to leave school? Do they not go to school that day? The mechanics of that do nothing more than target them. When I was in school myself, there was one young man who didn't stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I asked him why. He wouldn't talk about it. I found out later it's because he was a Jehovah's Witness, and they don't believe that you should say the Pledge of Allegiance because you're pledging to something greater than God. In the process of that, I would have learned a great deal about his religion had he been able to talk about it, had he not been so criticized by other students at the time. So the process of opting out just creates further targeting of individuals. And I think you've made the right decision by not allowing opt-out. It provides a healthier environment for the individuals to be able to privately exercise their religious beliefs, and they don't have to be afraid of ideas that are not part of their religious beliefs. They're merely ideas they can accept or reject and go home and talk about them with their parents. Thank you very much.
Thank you. If we could have the next 3 speakers. If we could have the next three speakers please come forward. Dagmawi Laku, Kirabel Frezenbet, and Christopher Persak. Dagmawi Laku, you may begin.
Hello, thank you for having me. As a parent of two girls attending MCPS schools, I'm truly saddened to witness the unequal treatment of children within the public school system funded by the tax dollars for every resident. This system is supposed to value and protect each child and remain impartial. We've seen the opposite right here in this chamber in front of all of you. One student is called an animal, likened to a parent, while another is praised as a hero by a board member who clearly misunderstands the concepts of impartiality and equality. When this occurred, all of you should have expressed your concerns, held that member accountable, and removed that member from the board. It is as if we have magically time traveled from an era when one human being in this country was considered 3/5 of a human being, and to an era where one non-LGBTQ child seems to be valued 1,000 times less than an LGBTQ child. We're witnessing this biased and unfair treatment unfold right before our eyes, not in hidden sight, not behind curtains. We're witnessing this not only in this action from one board member, but with the addition of books to the English language and arts literacy curriculum as a mandatory reading material for the sole purpose of dismantling the current social order and heteronormativity by labeling it as oppressive. You might think these are baseless accusations, but the exact language comes from the source documents outlining the evaluation criteria for including LGBTQ-related books. This document was provided by this very board. How is it possible for MCPS to evaluate books based on one-sided political manifestos in a democratic system? These books are being added under the guise of providing psychological support for LGBTQ children, but without considering the potential psychological impact on non-LGBTQ children. How come this board considered this a fair and balanced approach? Aren't we all equal in the eyes of the school board? Thank you.
Thank you. Kirabel Frezenbet.
We have repeatedly heard a biased report by a pro-LGBTQ group in this chamber about suicidality of LGBTQ children. If a child is having suicidal thoughts because children around that child believe some actions are sinful and wrong, then MCPS should look into what kind of parenting that child is receiving at home and provide mental health resources to that child. Bullying heterosexual and religious families is not the solution. What I and other families believe and practice as a religion is considered sinful and blasphemous or even stupid by some members of our community. No one seems to have suicidal thoughts because of that. Why? Because what others believe around you as sinful cannot cause you to have suicidal thoughts. Bullying and forceful indoctrination does. This is a scientific truth, and this is what this dictator school system is doing to non-LGBTQ families and children. Not only by adding books to the English language curriculum to dismantle the social structure, MCPS has implemented a gender policy of hiding the process of gender transition from parents by embracing ideology and beliefs that gender is fluid at birth. By implementing gender ideologies that aims to exclude parents from guiding their children's life and tuning their moral compass, MCPS is effectively diminishing human families to mere chickens on a farm. Chickens lay eggs and make chicks, but they have no control over how those chicks will live their life. The farmer gets to decide if the egg will be a chick or an omelette or even elaborate for scientific experiment of hormones. And MCPS is attempting to be that farmer. As if it's not enough to mock our humanity, now the agenda of gender-neutral toilets is being floated in this chamber. Why? According to proponents of this idea, rather than having one uncomfortable trans student, it's okay for MCPS to have thousands of non-LGBTQ students like my daughters to face sexual harassment in a bathroom by a boy who supposedly thinks that he is a woman. This apparently is entertained because non-LGBTQ students are considered less valuable than LGBTQ children.
Thank you so much.
Tara? Yeah. Tara Greer, you may begin.
My name's Tara Greer, and I'm an MCPS parent of 2 boys. As I stand here today, books discussing gender and sexual orientation are being forced on children, and MCPS refuses to create a formal opt-out plan. Family life isn't taught until the 5th grade, and you're allowed to opt out. These books introduce a variety of sexual terms to students at a much younger grade level. Why is it that the words Christmas, Halloween, and Easter have been completely removed from the school calendar and teacher verbiage for reasons, but I was asked and given no opt-out for my 2nd grader to be read a book called My Rainbow, which uses the terms transgender and cisgender. Most elementary age children do not even understand how their parents conceived them. We have watched nearly 100 different citizens respectfully and peacefully request an opt-out for materials targeting 4 to 11-year-olds, and they are being met with the same tired strategy from the BOE, nothing. Discussing personal issues like sexual orientation in schools may cause any child or any family to feel that their own identities are implicitly being devalued or rendered invisible no matter where you stand. Get the idea out of your head that any family who doesn't want their young child to learn about sexual orientation is a bigot, closed-minded, or a bad person. What are we fighting for? To make everyone feel accepted, or are we? LGBTQ advocates are refusing to show the same sensitivity on issues that we hold sacred that they demand the same sensitivity on. Here's what we should be focusing on way before we talk about sexual orientation to children under 12. We cannot even get our teacher disciplinary protocol action under control. Google Farquhar Middle School. Chronic absenteeism is a major problem here in MCPS, with the reporting coming back at 27%. Last I checked, sexual orientation is not more important than students learning. According to the CDC, eating disorders have more than doubled in young people than 17. Lastly, you want equity, you want inclusion, but you want it on your terms. That's not how this works. The hypocrisy is astounding. Your family dynamic doesn't dictate what my child should hear at school. School is for education. I will repeat it again. School is for education. Leave the children alone.
To get our next 3 speakers to please come forward. Gubale Woldu, Philip Alexander Downey, and Hiwot Gebeyehu. Gubale Woldu, you may begin.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ubal and a father of 2. I have a grave concern the way MCPS communicates with parents regarding the recent addition of books that promote LGBT identity to school children. MCPS keep insisting that since those books are added to the English language, arts, and literacy curriculum, parents have no right to opt out of those instructional materials. Maryland law gives parents the right to opt out of materials about sexuality in the comprehensive health curriculum. It allows students to opt out of such instructional materials not because Maryland believes that instruction is not necessary to teach kids about sexuality, or because it believes its own school system teaches something bad of the children. The intent of the law is based on the fact that attitudes and values about sexual identities are becoming subjective reality of citizens, and the schools have no right to infringe the 14th Amendment of Rights of Parents to direct the care, upbringing, and education of their children. MCPS also claims that it is possible for the school to communicate when those books are to be used in the classroom, as our community have diverse religious backgrounds. That couldn't be any further from the truth. We are in the post-internet era, and every school and teacher at MCPS have the capacity and the database to send emails to parents in bulk or selectively with a single click. I understand that there are procedures in the place to object the additional books in the curriculum. Those procedures are in the place to serve the community, not to push away parents from trying to correct wrong actions by MCPS. I urge you not to use bureaucracy to infringe parental rights. We parents will not stop until the opt-out is restored back. Thank you.
Philip Alexander Downey, you may begin.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Philip Alexander Downey. I'm a queer first-generation Black American with Jamaican and American parentage, a graduate of MCPS, and a lifelongish resident of Montgomery County. And I'm also one of the co-chairs for the Coalition for Inclusive Schools and Communities. I'm here today with a deep sense of urgency and responsibility. We are here to discuss a crisis that affects not only LGBTQIA+ youth, but all students, our future generation, in the heart of our society. In March of 2023, the CDC released the Youth Risk Behavior Survey that found in 2021 a staggering 69% of queer youth reported feeling persistently sad and hopeless compared to 35% of heterosexual youth. The pandemic only exacerbated this crisis, with queer high school students being 4 times more likely to attempt suicide than their heterosexual peers. These disparities extend to violence as well. LGBTQ+ high school students face rates of bullying, threats, and injuries and dating violence that is much more significant than their heterosexual peers. And perhaps one of the most heart-wrenching statistics is that during the pandemic, 20% of students reported being physically abused by their parents or other adults in their home. This is double the rate of their heterosexual peers at only 10%. The statistics are stark and undeniable. They paint a grim picture of the struggles that LGBTQIA+ youth face in our schools and communities, a crisis of mental health, violence, bullying, and despair, a crisis that we cannot ignore. These statistics are not just numbers on a page. They represent the lived experiences of countless young people who are suffering, struggling, and feeling isolated. It is our moral duty to continue to take action and stand firm in inclusion. We know that when schools implement LGBTQIA+ supportive policies, inclusive text, and practices, all students benefit. They experience better health outcomes, both mentally and physically. They feel safer, more included, and more valued. By creating truly inclusive schools where every student is respected, where their identities are celebrated, and where they can learn without fear, we not only prevent suicide in LGBTQIA youth. Thank you for your time.
Please be respectful of our speakers. Thank you. Hewat Gebeyehu, you may begin.
Hi, everybody. My name is Hewat. I have 3 kids in the school system, and I'm going to start my testimony. And the last meeting that occurred on July 20th, you went at length about how this new curriculum have in place came to be. As part of it was mentioned that parents were surveyed to gauge inclusivity of the new curriculum. In a recent MoCo 360 article, it was indicated in your court filing that the opt-out option was taken away because of an overwhelming request of opt-out, which made teachers' life difficult. A Washington Post article also indicated that a group of elementary school principals were worried about the appropriateness of some of the materials and mixed messaging from the school system. This indicates that you failed to do a good job of surveying parents and choose to ignore the warning of your own principals. I wonder why. Certain members of this board view our request for opt-out as hostility and hate towards the community they support, instead of looking at the merits of the arguments presented and making a reasoned decision thereof. I do not view disagreement with my point of view, my values, my Christianity as hate. Everyone has a God-given and constitutionally affirmed right to lead a chosen way of life, as long as it doesn't infringe on the rights of others. And as elected members of this board, I would expect you to decide on the sensitive issues impartially. Let me make my position crystal clear. I oppose the addition of the LGBTQ books and associated teaching guides on the grounds of age appropriateness and dictation of one-sided ideology to impressionable kids. Secondly, the discussion question associated with these books are really not about language and art. Instead, they are about sexuality and gender ideology. In the name of affirmation, when my children's feeling, religious beliefs, and rights are trampled, I am not stand idly by. I am not only fighting for my children's mental well-being, but their souls too. Because that's my parental duty. Thank you.
Our final speaker, Berhani Teklim Mikhail, please come forward.
to go, but he showed up late. Can he go too then?
I'm sorry, I'm going to proceed with my list here. You may begin. Just push your microphone.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for giving me a chance to express myself. MCPS is taken based on one-sided gender ideology. MCPS is practically shaping two distinct generations. One that thinks it's acceptable to bend rules when enough power is amassed, and another that sees government institutions as oppressive in titles, united only in their mistrust of such institution. If the upcoming generation loses faith in the system, how can we hope to maintain a democratic country? Is that a legacy you aim to leave? If any hint of imagination or willingness to learn or an interest in history remains with this Board of Education, please consider how it feels to strip someone of their humanity and reduce them to mere animals. Look to history to understand how people react. When the state takes away their rights and livelihoods, children are after all the most precious thing in human being can ever have. If they make injustice to become the law, then struggle will become a duty. Believe me, tension in a community always leads to a bad thing to a country. Please, I ask you, do something to stop the madness. Thank you.
We have 3 video testimonies.
Yes.
If we could please pull up the first video testimony, Jennifer Martin.
Good afternoon. MCEA is gravely disappointed by MCPS's handling of sexual harassment claims made by our members, and we are disturbed by the way you have chosen to run a renewed investigation. We will not tolerate a work culture that silences victims while rewarding perpetrators, nor will we accept a hasty review by an anti-worker law firm as an appropriate investigation. Our members displayed extraordinary courage in reporting to MCPS the abuse they were facing, but you so far have failed us. It is dismaying that it took media attention for MCPS to suddenly recognize and address this harm to educators, students, and our community. MCPS is, as I record this message, still intent on conducting a second investigation of sexual harassment complaints using a firm that specializes in protecting management from such claims, not in ensuring safe working conditions for employees. This approach suggests that MCPS is looking for cover rather than seeking the truth. We urge you to remove this law firm from the investigation. Failure to have a truly independent investigation harms morale of employees across the system and tarnishes MCPS's reputation as an employer for those considering a career in education. MCEA also reminds the board and superintendent that in every budget cycle, we press you to add staff to labor relations. There are currently only 2 investigators in the compliance office to handle all bullying and harassment complaints. Extended delays in addressing those complaints are routine. A new school year offers an opportunity for the board to make a fresh start to restore employees and families' faith in the school system. We call for a truly independent investigation and for MCPS to work with us on reforming your policies and practices so that this never happens again.
Our next video, we will hear from Iman Kota. Please play the video.
Hello, I'm Iman Kota, a Rockville author with kids at Rockville and Loiterman. Thank you for letting me speak in support of MCPS's LGBTQ inclusive curriculum and tell you why I believe all students benefit and should participate. Before the pandemic, I used to throw an annual international breakfast party where guests shared favorite morning foods from around the world. Friends and neighbors tell me it was their favorite party every year, and I think I know why. International Breakfast encapsulated what we all love about Montgomery County. Families of all backgrounds and compositions live here because they want to raise their kids in a safe, supportive, inclusive place. MCPS's inclusion of LGBTQ texts in its K through 12 reading and language arts curriculum is in the same spirit. By encountering these literary texts in the classroom from kindergarten up, our kids will learn to analyze and respond to works representing a mosaic of experiences and histories. As a Muslim mom, I want my kids and their friends and classmates to engage with a wide range of books that prepare them for the diverse America of the future. I'm especially excited that as juniors, my kids may be assigned the book approved for 11th grade, The Henna Wars. This award-winning book is by a queer Muslim Bangladeshi Irish author, and I loved it. I urge the board and superintendent to fully back the inclusive curriculum and ensure all MCPS students, from the youngest to the oldest, get to read these well-chosen books alongside their peers, no exceptions. Thank you.
Our next video testimony comes from Hisham Gardi. Please play the video.
Good afternoon, Dr. McKnight, members of the board. My name is Hisham Gardi, and I'm the current Outreach Director for the Montgomery County Muslim Council. I submit this video testimony today on behalf of the thousands of families that have been rallying at the doors of your offices for the past few weeks, few months, asking for the reinstatement of the opt-out. These are some of the few points that they would like to raise to your attention. Number one, the process by which this whole ordeal has been handled by MCPS has been chaotic at best, non-transparent, misleading at worst. This is frankly not acceptable. Number two, there has been a definite lack of inclusion through it all. You failed to include all different perspectives when it came to the introduction of these highly controversial texts that you've also chosen to hide in a literacy curriculum. Number three, there have been many contradictory statements made by your central office, Dr. McKnight, including yourself, but specifically Ms. Nikki Hazel, when she stated disruption because of number of opt-outs to MoCo's 360 as a reason behind the rescinding of said opt-out. When both her and Dr. Pugh had clearly told me and Dr. Chaudhary of CARE, Maryland, that they decided to rescind, and this is a quote, the existing opt-out option when a few members of the LGBTQ community complained because they were offended and some of their children had their feelings hurt when a few of the children started leaving the classroom at the introduction of these texts, end of quote. Number four, this last point, along with all the documents that have recently been uncovered by CARE of Maryland, show that the main reason for rescinding the opt-out was not as disruptive nature, but rather some very strong lobbying by specific groups, which is driven by a highly divisive political agenda. Dr. McKnight, the result of all this is that your strategy has been extremely counter-effective. Rather than making it safe for all children to be in the school and feel included, it has pitted some minorities against one another and now has created a very divisive atmosphere at the school for many children, children of faith, of colored immigrants, as well as of the LGBTQ community. For all these reasons, we strongly urge you all to either reinstate the opt-out effective next week or pause this whole program and stop teaching those texts until you bring all concerned parties to the table so that they can help find a solution that would be accepted by all. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
This will conclude our public comments. The next business meeting of the Board of Education for public comment is September 7th, 2023. Sign-ups for public comment will open on Wednesday, August 30th, 2023 at 6 p.m. In addition to the online sign-ups for public comment, we allow for in-person, same-day sign-ups when space allows. Unallocated slots may be filled on a first-come, first-served basis on the day of the meeting. In order to sign up in person, please arrive 15 to 20 minutes before the start of the open session and sign the form. In-person sign-ups will close 15 minutes before public comment begins or when all slots are filled. I will now turn to my colleagues to see if there's any questions or comments. Mr. Said.
Yeah, I just want to, speak on, a few of the testimonies. I think a big one was, our first testimony that actions speak louder than words in regards to mental health support. I 100% agree with this. We can always talk about, suicide prevention. We can always talk about these things, but we also need to make sure that with every, one of the things we say that action follows. And I think we're doing a good job in the sector of mental health, and I think we're putting a lot of resources. And I just want to reiterate that we need targeted mental health support for students, and that just needs to continue. So I just want to acknowledge that. And then I also want to acknowledge the testimony about, drug use. That's definitely a really big thing, and I think the big thing that was mentioned in that testimony was about the health curriculum and about specifically within that, the curriculum around drug use. I've had a lot of conversations with students, and almost every single one that I've heard says it really needs to be almost completely overhauled. It's outdated. It's not in touch with students. And when we talk about drug use, if we want an effective curriculum, it has to be discussion-based, it has to be direct, and it has to be adapted to these times. And so I think we need to be hearing a lot more student input on that. And I think organizations, like Maryland Students Against Drugs, these are organizations that are fantastic and need to continue to be supported. And then finally, on the testimony just about support, for Arab students in the system, as an Arab student, I definitely connect with a lot of those parts. I think there needs to be more education around, Arab culture and, the Muslim community, because I know that there was only a couple times ever in school where I learned about, and I gave a testimony on this, and one of them was just about terrorism and war. That was the only introduction that students had in an in an elective course around, the Arab community. And so I thought that that was completely unfair to our students. There needs to be better curriculum to cover that, and there needs to be more education around, the Muslim faith and just around the Arab community in general. So I just want to reiterate that if we truly want to be diverse and inclusive, we need to push for that 100%. And yes, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Saeed. Okay, seeing no other lights on, we're going to move on to our next item for in our agenda. This is our readiness for school oral discussion. School starting on Monday. I know I still have to go back to school shopping this weekend. I'm very much looking forward to it. So we are delighted to hear this presentation. I pass it on to Dr. McKnight.
Thank you so much, Ms. Silvestri, and good afternoon, everyone. I am excited that we're going to be talking about the beginning of the year. For every educator that has had an opportunity to work in education, as you know, fellow board members, this is the most exciting time of year for us. It truly is, and I am thrilled that we are welcoming, or we've started welcoming teachers back on this past Monday. So happy I had an opportunity to go out and interact with many of them. They're bringing the same excitement and joy to the profession that they always do, that is wrapped in the concern and care of our children. And I just want to give a shout out to those educators who continue to come back every year and commit the time and energy to young people who depend on us in so many ways to prepare them for the rest of their lives. And so the visits this week have been amazing. I gotta call out a few of our schools. I know we had, and I know that there were many more who did this, but just to mention Flower Valley Elementary School, they did a community bus ride out into their community. And when I visited this week, we spent time talking about opening of the year, but our conversation could not stop around the momentum they felt going out into the community and meeting their families there before students came in. I heard that students were fiercely riding their bikes down hills to meet the buses. They were drawing pictures of lightning bugs within their driveway with chalk. All of those things that basically said, we welcome you to our community. They're a part of the same community already, but you know how it is when you have your teacher or your principal and staff come to your neighborhood, your street, to your house. And I want to thank those educators for doing that, because for many students who are filled with anxiety on the first day of school, wondering, who's my teacher? Is it going to be the one that my older sibling told me about? Is it going to be, who's my principal? All of those pieces. The fact that the staff went out to the community to welcome them before the first day. When we talk about social emotional wellness and knowing the anxiety of what students experience on the first day, they were able to, I'm sure, make many have a sigh of relief before they walk into that school on the first day. That's just one example of many of the lengths that our educators go to just take care of our children. And so, why we always have to work through challenges and different situations to figure out the right way to do it, it's at the heart of everybody trying to do their best. And so this year we open up with the commitment that we're going to work hard to do our best, because that is what our children and our families and our staff deserve. And so with that, I'm excited. This morning we saw buses rolling around Montgomery County. Some of us are probably reminded of the traffic that we're going to experience starting next Monday and throughout the week, but our buses are back on the road. Our bus drivers, I thank them for getting our children to orientation. I know they were very excited about that. But we're bringing back over 160,000 students, over 25,000 staff, and families who are going to be a part of this, who are going to come out to those bus stops and walk their children out and just be excited about them starting a new year. So I want to thank our staff, our principals, our teachers, everybody who contributes to building the environment that's going to be the right environment for our children to thrive and to learn in. So today, we're going to talk about some of the preparation that we've done to open up the school year. There were many things that we learned last year that were at the top of our minds for beginning school this year. You all know we experienced it together as a community, buses. We're excited, Madam President Silvestri at the press conference to say we are fully staffed with transportation. Yes, that was really hard last year. I won't ever talk about or shy away from talking about our challenges. That was a big challenge. So much so I remember asking our community members, please go and stand out at the bus stops if you see children waiting so that they're not waiting alone, to help support us. I encouraged and asked families if they knew each other, if they could help carpool. And this community pulled together and everybody did their part. And we saw that and acknowledged it. So that's why in the middle of October, November last year, we were thinking of everything we needed to do to make sure we were not starting this year in that way. And this year, you know what? We will learn some things that will make us better even the next year. And so that growth mindset is how we've approached opening of schools this year, and we will always approach our work. And I just want to thank you, the Board of Education, for, acknowledging those were challenges and giving us good ideas and thoughts and things to consider and direction that helped us take those things into consideration to have a more successful opening of the year this year. And it supports our theory of action when we talk about those three areas. We have to differentiate resources all the time, knowing that this is not a one-size-fits-all business of education. We always have to come back and talk about what is it that our staff need and be aware of that. And one thing we're reflecting on a lot is listening to understand that deeply. But what do they need to build their capacity to be able to provide the support that's needed for students? And then implement structures of accountability. The board has charged me with that. I understand it and I take it seriously. I'm responsible for it. And at the end of the day, we are responsible for the experiences we provide to our students and our staff. And so while we have built some systems of accountability, I'll point to our student pathway for college, career, and community readiness, there's continued accountability that we need to build out, and we will. And we'll continue to share that with you and the public as we ensure that our school system is a successful one. So we've had recruitment fairs to get us ready for this year. Ms. Key, we welcome her to the table over human resources, staff, helping to staff our students. We've had back to school fair coming up. No, we're having that coming up in 2 days. So I know that we all will be there and bringing that energy and excitement, that our students and families bring to that event while we share resources with them to get them prepared for the year. And when I say resources, it's backpacks, but then it's also resources around our curriculum and instruction, because our parents need to know what that is and what their children should expect so that they can have conversation with us and engage to be involved in that process of teaching and learning throughout the year. So all of those pieces are just taking place in our preparation. And our commitment is that not only are we starting this year with this in mind about energy, commitment, accountability, building staff capacity, differentiated resources, we're going to end this year in that same way, and talking about those things and how they have contributed to the success, and also continue to look at where there are areas of upgrade. So that's our commitment, and thank you so much to the staff in this room, the staff beyond this room who have been a part of building that picture and building this type of experience for our children. And I look forward to opening up this year. And we have to bring the energy that our children deserve and expect in opening of school this year, as we bring every year, and I'm excited for that. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Hall to kick off this presentation, in which we're going to go through many different pieces of what the school year will look like for our students and the preparation for it.
Great. Thank you, Dr. McKnight. Good afternoon, board members. So we are very excited to be welcoming back over 160,000 students in just a few days. This is why we're all in the business we're in. We believe in education, and we are excited to see the children back with us as we kick off here. And the team will go through a lot of the details here in a few minutes, but I just want to say thank you not only to this team, but to the literally thousands of other people across the district who have been working hard all summer to prepare 211 schools for opening on Monday. Over 1,200, or approximately 1,200 bus routes will be running each day, traveling over 100,000 miles per day. That's the equivalent of going around the Earth at the equator 4 times every single day. Over 27 million square feet of building space has been cleaned and prepared for our students, including almost 500,000 square feet of new space. We have over 25,000 employees in positions that need to be staffed by our HR department, and make sure that those people, we have the right people in the right places to serve our children. And over 90,000 meals will be served every single day this year in Montgomery County. So this is an enormous operation. We've got a great team here and throughout the district making this happen for our children and our families, and I want to say thank you to all of them. And I'll turn it over to Dr. Pugh to kick us off.
Next slide, please. So as Mr. Hall shared, the overview of all of the things that you'll hear about today will include summer learning. It'll include our hiring and what we've done to prepare, the things that are under operational excellence to make sure that we're ready for all of our students, as well as the planning for health and wellness and fall athletics. This is the first of 2 presentations. This one will talk about some of the logistics and things that we've done throughout the summer in order to prepare, and then we'll come back after the first week of the school to share some more details. Next slide, please. So we wouldn't be able to start the year without talking about what we've been doing since the end of the last school year. At the very end of last school year, we worked to make sure that we had a very strategic and organized summer learning program to address the learning needs of our students. And we also did learning for our professionals and for our staff to make sure that they were prepared and uplifting and building their capacity and our capacity as leaders as we move through. Next slide, please. So by the numbers, summer programs for students were quite comprehensive, but also very unique and specific, designed to support students in a variety of ways. The big news here is that all summer programs were staffed. We were able to fully staff programs on site, and we were able to meet the needs of all of our students who received extended school year services. We're also excited beyond these initial programs. We were able to partner with the Montgomery County Department of Recreation to make sure that we were extending the school day. So it wasn't just our teachers in a shortened amount of time and then transportation back and forth, but our students actually had a full day of fun and learning, both in partnership with the Department of Recreation and our teachers in the classrooms. We also did a successful implementation of extended school year in 150 sites. You might remember last year, we had to do that virtually. So we were really happy to be able to bring our students in person to offer over 4,000 students with disabilities that really strategic and specialized instruction that they deserve. We also held an innovative math camp for the first time in partnership with Kid Museum. The camp actually combined some of the activities, the hands-on learning activities that are happening at Kid Museum with a mathematics focus. And we were really excited to see that the students who participated in that type of learning, hands-on experiential with shapes and sizes and numbers, were outperforming their peers who were in a traditional summer school. So that's where we'll learn more about how to implement some more innovation next summer, hopefully to impact our math. And then last week, it would be remiss of me if we didn't say and acknowledge and celebrate our 70 students who earned their high school diplomas at the completion of the regional summer school program. Next slide, please.
So district-wide professional learning, we're committed to improving our student math and literacy rates. I think that's been a focus all last year. It's been a focus this year. And the graph here shows the feedback that we've received from our staff about the quality of our content and the the potential impact on their future teaching. And what is noticeable here is that it is more favorable than that of last year, and last year was more favorable than the year before. So with that in mind, we keep learning from our staff about what's working and what's not. As of August 21st, 8,937 staff completed professional learning, over 82,903 hours of learning, which is really, when you work out the math, it's about 2 courses per person. One of the largest learning experiences at a significant investment was the English language arts curriculum, learning that happened with our K-5 teachers. And that was a 12-hour training that occurred, and over 3,135 K-5 teachers were trained. We also prepared professional learning working with school leadership teams, working with the instructional leadership teams, those people who support the teachers in the school, as well as the administration, about strategies for working with emergent multilingual learners in a general education setting, including the administration. They trained 1,882 people, and 147 elementary administrators participated with their teams. Secondary training was also provided. It would also be important to notice that there were 27 learning sessions related to a variety of special education topics. This whole idea of preparing our teachers to teach in a differentiated way, specially designed for their students, was a focus for the summer. They had learning topics like using assistive technology, Tier 3 interventions, what specially designed instruction is, and then nonviolent crisis intervention. That school administrators were also provided the same type of training along those same lines, and over 1,000 administrators participated. So I would say they've been busy over the summer preparing so that they can hone their skills and best meet the needs of the students as the students return to us. And with that, next slide, please.
Good afternoon. I'm excited to share I'm excited to share about our professional learning for school administrators that took place on August 16th and 18th. We brought together all of the administrative teams so that they could further their professional learning. It was a proactive approach to continue to build around school safety, security, and well-being. The selection of the content was grounded in data, and we used what we learned this school year to create learning and design sessions that would address the topics that were most important to our school leaders. The sessions were designed so our school leaders could hear directly from the experts around suspension and expulsion, bullying and investigations, hate bias, school safety, and we also provided tabletop scenarios that were multifaceted and allowed for the administrative teams to really sit and work through them. All of the scenarios were things that actually occurred in our schools this past year, and we wanted to make sure that they had an opportunity to engage around those scenarios. So we were excited about that. This is one of 4 sessions that we will be offering to the administrative teams at our schools to ensure that we are keeping up with what we're seeing and that we're providing that opportunity for them to use one another as resources, but more importantly, to be in space with our central office leaders as they grapple with these changing scenarios that we're seeing in schools around these areas. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to my colleague, April Key.
Next slide, please. One more, please. Good afternoon, Dr. McKnight, Ms. Silvestri, members of the board. I come before you today celebrating the extraordinary efforts of our talent acquisition team. As of this morning, that number is incorrect. I'm sorry that the number's up there. We are 99.03% filled with classroom teachers. We are so excited. We have 139 full-time teacher vacancies and 50 part-time teacher vacancies at this time. Next slide. We have 78 special education vacancies, but this year we have hired, as of this morning, 1,112 teachers. 648 with experience, 464 new to teaching. Our diversity hires have increased. 50% of our hires were Caucasian, and the remaining 50% were teachers of color. So we are pleased that we are moving in that direction as well. We are fully staffed, as Dr. McKnight said, with our bus operators and bus attendants, and we're happy about that because we know that then everybody will get to school on Monday in time for learning. Next slide, please. So this is about our administrative hires. This year, this hiring season, we've hired 20 principals, 50 assistant principals, and 14 assistant school administrators. Of those totals, 36 have been African American, 13 have been Hispanic, 3 have been Asian, and 32 white. Principals, got 1 from out of state, actually out of country, and we got 7 assistant principals that came from out of state as well. We are moving in the direction of trying to be fully staffed early, hopefully in October. Any questions? No.
Next slide,
microphone
please.
on. Next slide. I think I was so excited as we talk about operational excellence. We cannot say it enough. If we go to the next slide, we are fully staffed for bus drivers. We hired 74 new bus drivers this summer from 3 job fairs. And when we go to our back to school fair on Saturday, we will also have a table there, and we will be hiring more and really working with the community to have an opportunity for people to see our EV buses, but also if they'd like to apply to become a bus driver, we are there to welcome them into the fold and take them through the process. So I'm very happy to report overall we have 1,235 bus operators and 610 attendants this year, which is great. Mr. Hall talked about the number of routes, the number of buses that we run, and we are very happy to be able to do that. Our fleet continues to sit at about 86 of our electric vehicles. We will be welcoming more vehicles in this year so that we get to about 100 by the end of the year. We are still caught in a supply chain issue in terms of the delivery. We wanted to have more at the start of the school year, and they will be trickling in slowly. And as they come in, we will disperse them throughout the county so all students will have that opportunity to be on those buses. All of our bus routes have been shared with our families. One of the things that we did differently this year that was big was that when we sent the information out, we translated not the bus routes, but the actual information about what parents and families were receiving in multiple languages so that people would have that and know what that information said to them. So we shared it with principals, we put it on the website, and we're making ourselves available throughout back to school night as well as the welcome back fairs that are coming up. We also officially opened our second West Farm Depot. As the board remembers last year, we were very impacted in terms of the buses that we were not able to run in the northeast part of the county. And one of the things that we saw was that was starting to be one of our largest depots. So we opened West Farm upper and lower, very simple. But if you go, the upper is in the lower part part of the depot and the lower is in the upper part of the depot. But they're ready, they're welcoming, and we're ready to get started. And that actually will be my first stop on the first day of school at 5 a.m. So anyone who would like to join, please do so. I put the invitation out, you never know. One thing that we talked about a lot last year was in terms of how we would be communicating to families. And I think it was in about April or May, we brought to the board the RFP for the bus app. And so we are still in the process of working out the contract details with the company. We have selected the company. We are working out the contract details, and the implementation is very important for us. We want to implement district-wide and not in just certain clusters. And in order to do that, we want to make sure that we have a good, strong implementation timeline. We also want to make sure that how we work with that information and that company is matching how we present information to families and protecting our data. So we are looking at release of the bus app probably around December of this year, because it will not only be for students and families to use, but our depots will be using it and our schools will be able to use it as well. Next slide. I continue to be excited. We talk about the bus being the first classroom for students. The largest classroom for students is lunch and cafeteria. And so we look at it from that perspective, and Mr. Hall shared with you the number of meals that we serve, but there are three big exciting things this year for food and nutrition services. One, we welcome our new director, Liz Leach, and thank you for joining MCPS. We are so excited about what you bring to the table, and how she will really look at understanding the needs of what students are looking for with meals and being able to highlight how we bring forward the diversity of our system through what we offer through meals. The second component is we have increased meal access this year, free meal access, by leveraging some USDA programs. One, our MMFA, our whole school breakfast program, we've increased from 89 to 117 schools for the year. The second component, which is a new program, is the Community Eligibility Provision, which is, you may have heard it called CEP, provides free breakfast and lunch for students, and we're going to do that in 59 schools this year. And so we're really happy to be able to do that as we expand those programs and really look at opportunities. And we talked about this last year in terms of decreasing that food insecurity that's there. And then the third component on the right-hand side, we have some new menu options that were selected by children last year at the Taste for MCPS. So what you see are what children selected for us in terms of the options that include meat options as well as meatless options. I always say the chicken wrong, but those chicken options are the vegetarian options that we'll be bringing forward. And as we go into this year, one of the critical parts, and thank you, Mr. Saeed and Ms. Harris, who will be partnering with us, we will be launching a full-scale piece in terms of really getting input about our current menu options, as well as looking at how we bring forward new menu options. And we will start that this weekend at our back to school fair. We'll have some feedback that we get from families. Some of our back to school nights, we will open our lines and families will have an opportunity to try the food, give us some input, and then we will be going throughout the district to be able to get input around what will go on our menu for the coming year. And so we are excited for that opportunity to really leverage voice, have our food really mirror the diversity of our district, but also keep it as a cyclical process. And so we welcome that opportunity. I wanted to bring you samples today, but I was told, no, not yet. So another point in time, we will do that. At this moment, I turn it over to my colleague, Mr. Adams, to bring forward about facilities and infrastructure.
Good afternoon, Dr. McKnight, President Silvestri, members of the board. So today is a very exciting time for the facilities group, right? Everyone really sort of thinks about the summer as a time to, recharge. The facilities group dives right in, 6 days, 7 days a week of work. Really put much of your CIP efforts to work. So as you can see, 136 of those systemic replacement projects completed. A lot of those are behind the scenes, so students leave, they come back, they don't really see some of that infrastructure work, but it's incredibly important to us as a district to continue to do those types of projects. I mean, you can see 32 building modifications. You hear that term BIMPI program quite a bit. That's where we come in and we make modifications to existing spaces for different services, different programs. And then when you get into some of the new construction, some of the work orders, this is where I become very proud of those that serve us as a school district. Over 8,000 work orders completed just in that short summer window. Well over 5,000 acres of lawns mowed, weed whacked, maintained. Over 27 million square feet of facility cleaned from our building service teams. And those numbers, probably just sound like numbers, but that's massive. I mean, that is, we are the largest, largest property owner in the county, in the state, and we have those teams that support our students. And then when we look at the new construction, over 500,000 square feet of new construction completed. This is also an area of pride for all of us, and I think this is an example where all the teams come together. You look at the 500,000 square feet of new construction, we had many challenges where I think many of our different groups, our different employees every challenge could have said, that's enough, we can't do it. They continued on after every adversity that they were faced. We have partnerships that came into these projects. We have our DMM team, Rachel's back there, that worked tirelessly to support these schools. We have our technology teams. We have our security teams that all really came together to support, not only these projects, but most importantly, our students and our staff. So again, you can see the work that's been completed, but the behind the scenes is, for me, what's most important, and the pride that goes into the work that our staff puts into getting ready for students to return is incredible. So again, this is a very proud moment for me every year, but this year in particular because it was a tough summer. But the teamwork, the collaboration, I think has never been at this level in my experience here at MCPS. So thank you for the opportunity to share this feedback. So turn it back over to Chief Pam.
Good afternoon, Dr. McKnight. Good afternoon, board. I'm ecstatic at this point. This is my first board meeting, and I'm going to echo the sentiment of Dr. McKnight and Ms. Edwards that I am uber excited. This is like it's my first day of school, even down to I'm trying to decide what outfit I'm going to wear. I already have to be up at the crack of dawn, to join Dana at 5 o'clock in the morning, where we're going to be. But I'm not Mr. Hull. I'm Pamela Wheeler-Taylor. And I'm your new Chief of Safety and Emergency Management. If we can have the next slide, please. I don't know where we started, but I can actually tell you that we are, is it 97% or 98% fully staffed this year, which is amazing. In that regard.
Next slide, please.
Okay, 97%. I misspoke. 97% staffed in that regard, and that was as of last week. I'm also grateful to report that the elementary school camera project, of which I am inheriting, we are on point to be completed by the winter of 2023. There were a few little hiccups as far as getting this program actually implemented because of the sheer numbers of schools that I'm learning is just an astronomical number. It's an awesome responsibility, but we should be on point to get this project completed by the winter of 2023. Our summer onset program, summer onset training for administrators, that was, again, an awesome experience. And it's just like I'm a kid in the candy store because I see all of these systems coming together to be able to complete the mission of which is providing a safe and secure environment for our children. So with our onset program, approximately 93% of our staff actually got trained in that by the state, and the rest are going to be trickling in the fall and winter to ensure that all of our employees are actually trained in compliance regulations and things that we need to know for the school system. Continued safety measures and guidance. I want to ensure you all, I am laser focused on what it is that we need to do to ensure the safety and security of our children. If I could just learn some of the acronyms, I'm going to be on board with this at our next board meeting. I'm going to be able to rattle them off, but at this point, that's my biggest hurdle. I come to you with a sense of urgency in understanding the fact that our school environment has to be in a place where our kids feel safe. And I'm here to develop policies and procedures to ensure that our kids are safe from physical violence, harassment, verbal, physical, and all types of bullying. And with that in mind, my most precious commodity is communication and building relationships. So my first methods of business in the 2 weeks that I've been here is about establishing these relationships. And I've started with the high school principals because that was the smallest number of individuals. So each individual high school principal, I've sent out a personal email. Most have responded. Most are eager. They want our assistance. We need to work as a system to be able to ensure that each individual part that we have is actually working, again, to ensure the safety and wellness of our children. So with that in mind, also, I have meetings set up. I have visits set up. Next week is going to be pretty awesome because, again, I get to see that first day of school. I get to be at that press conference. I get to experience that energy of our kids. And that's a lot of the why. I believe either Mr. Hull or even Dr. McKnight said, we need to know our why. Our why is the reason that we're here deciding on the safety of our kids. So with that in mind, going down to continued safety and guidance for schools, again, that's my plan to communicate effectively so that hopefully we can open up some two-way communication. Not a lot of hurdles in between. I'm a very open person, and I'd like to be able to establish and nurture these relationships for a lot of reasons, not just for the safety and security of our schools, but for the safety and security of our employees, and to let them know that they are supported by the central office. With that in mind, our continued, down at the bottom, community engagement officers summer program. That's part of my process of actually engaging with our community partners and our outside agencies. So this summer, for 3 weeks this summer, the community engagement officers from Montgomery County Police Department worked with students at Walters Landing Elementary School. That was at the request of the school security guard and the principal there. And they provided lessons on the importance of communication, empathy, active listening, conflict resolution, which is so important, and positive ways to manage emotions. One of our security teams here, Mr. Cedric Boatman, he's a cluster security coordinator, worked in conjunction with Principal Hammond to bring this valuable partnership. And this is something that I'm looking to replicate throughout the entire school year and various schools, particularly from the elementary and middle school portion of it. So I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Dr. McKnight, President Silvestri, and members of the Board of Education. This time of year, we're talking about often talking about school immunizations and getting kids ready to get back to school. There's a 20-day grace period by which, from the first day of school, kids must have all required school immunizations. And in the spirit of collaboration and partnership, which seems to be our theme, this takes a village. So our DHHS colleagues, MCPS staff, as well as our family members and medical community are all part of this drive that begins in the summer. And because of their amazing efforts, and I'll specifically call out our school nurses as well as our PPW, supporting families and making sure their kids get what they need. We did amazing last year. That work actually continued throughout the school year. So we started at a historically high baseline of 77% compliance for 7th graders at the end of July. So that is where we started from. Second thing that I will talk about is sort of health skills and behaviors. You'll see the conversation change from COVID to respiratory viruses, infectious disease, how we keep ourselves healthy and safe, and really restructuring the narrative of health as it relates to school engagement. What we've been hearing from our youth is that they want to be part of it, they want to learn more, they want to be empowered to learn more about how to protect themselves and their families and how to really be in charge of their health. So we've been very excited to already be working with youth who have come off their summer vacation, some of them on their summer rise, to step forward and start planning how they can be involved in how they learn about health and even health policy, understanding and addressing health disparities have all been interests that they brought to the table.
I think we're going to ask them to advance the slides.
Oh, yeah, sorry about that. Next slide, please. So excited. We're going to continue to closely monitor health trends that come up as they affect our youth. So last year we talked a lot about the opioid crisis, opioid overdoses, illicit fentanyl, and work on that has continued through the summer. So this time last year we did not have a specific regulation that outlined our response to possible opioid overdoses in schools. Last year, we became our own overdose response program. We increased the amount of Narcan in schools. We addressed the issue of whether or not students could self-care. We gave out hundreds of doses and trained many community members, including students, on how to use Narcan. Going into this school year, we have great partnerships with youth as well as the state attorney's office, our CEOs, who all are interested in youth engagement and education around this critically important topic. And then I'll remind everyone that September is Recovery Month. So August 31st, which is National Opioid Overdose Awareness Day, we'll have our annual celebration as well as memorial, which many of you attended last year in Rockville Town Center, as well as events throughout the month of September in this particular area. Other trends that we're monitoring, we've talked a lot about the increase in health disparities for LGBT youth. We've also seen some very concerning trends as they impact girls who in the last YRBS reported twice the rates of depression and suicidality as their male peers. So keeping a look, keeping our finger on the pulse of these different trends so we can understand what supports youth need is going to continue to be very important. And in the area of health emergencies, in addition to addressing possible overdoses, thinking about other medical emergencies, you'll hear some exciting stuff as the trainers come on board about emergency action plans and how we can collaborate as a school across many disciplines to create an emergency environment that goes even beyond the school day. So we've been really excited to work with system-wide safety, with athletics, to think about CPR in schools. We expanded with 40 more AED devices in middle schools, more trainings for middle schools. We're including the athletic trainers as part of the fabric of how we teach CPR. So lots more to come, and lots has already been done this summer. Next slide, please. So I'm not going to go through point by point the differences in COVID procedures, but I will let you know that a memo has gone out to principals outlining COVID procedures. We went over it at administrators training. The COVID website has been updated. There's a back to school community letter, what's different this year. That's all on our website. So just really making it clear what the changes are. In general, we've seen a summer surge, a small summer surge of COVID. That's expected for many types of viruses that appear in the summer. We're still at a low risk rate in terms of hospital admissions in the county. And we haven't seen more severe disease, though we've seen, because of the numbers, a few more people in the hospital, especially people who are vulnerable. So it's still important to be vigilant, but our approach is going to be to think about illness in general, illness-related absences, good Common Core health strategies, as well as COVID-19. Next slide, please. And then just a couple of points on legalization of adult use of cannabis. As you know, since July 1st, possession and use of a small amount of cannabis has been legal for individuals in Maryland over 21 years old. The two main points of impact of this new legislation is, one, making it really clear that people understand what the new law says and what it does not say. So it does not mean that you can smoke publicly. That's actually not allowed in places of indoor employment, in public spaces, in motor vehicles, and it is certainly not allowed on school property. It's not allowed for students of any age, but certainly individuals under 21, and rules around drug testing and use by our Department of Transportation employees, which are federally regulated, have not changed. So really understanding that this has not changed. How we approach substance use in schools, how we support our kids and their life success, and how we keep school property safe has been an important kind of teaching point. And then the second thing to be mindful of is what is the downstream impact on youth. This is something that with our county partners we've taken very seriously and been engaged in discussions with them since November 9 after Marylanders approved the resolution. Like, what is the impact? How are we going to do public health outreach? It's really streamlined with a lot of other conversations we've been having around substance use prevention. So just so you know, that is definitely on our radar. Nothing has changed, but be prepared to support in this way. And with that, Dr. Sullivan. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Dr. Kapunen. Good afternoon, President Silvestri, members of the board, and Dr. McKnight. Jeff Sullivan, Director of Athletics, and I'm here to give some updates on what's happening in the wide world of MCPS athletics. Next slide, please. All right, first, our certified athletic trainers. So I want to start by saying thank you. On behalf of all of our student athletes, our coaches, and our program, I want to thank the board, Dr. McKnight, our leadership, for investing in the health and well-being of our student athletes and allowing us to create this innovative sports medicine program that we just debuted. It is leading the way in the state of Maryland and large school districts around the country. It is paving the way for our student athletes to receive the care that they need. We've built this program on a holistic view. It started as getting a certified athletic trainer in each high school, but it's really grown beyond that. We started by hiring our new health and safety coordinator, who's here, Mr. Sean Hendy. The structure of this program, we were able to attract him away from Georgetown University, where he served as the Associate Athletic Director and Head of Sports Medicine for the past 15 years. Now he is leading our sports medicine program. We are fully staffed with our 25 full-time athletic trainers. They are in our schools. They are there. They have been supported by Mr. Hendy. We are just really excited about the opportunities that this program is going to bring us. They are full-time and 12-month because our program is operating 12 months a year now. So we're excited about that. Our partnership with MedStar Health. This is a program that we are leading the way with. It really came from MedStar providing services at the professional and college levels, and we wanted to lead the way with bringing that service to the high school level. So they can deliver services to the Ravens and to the Nationals and the Capitals and Georgetown. Why not the high school level? And that's exactly what we're bringing here in MCPS with this program. So we're excited about that. We will have a video produced by MCPS TV, an informational video that will be released. But Mr. Saeed, I want to give you a shout out because he produced an amazing video that we have been showcasing, highlighting our athletic training program. So I want to thank you, and anytime you want to produce anything we're doing, the invitation is open, but it's an outstanding video promoting those efforts. Next slide, please. Staying on safety, I want to give some updates about our athletic safety plan. This is the plan that drives our game operations and overall game and event management. It's something that we've had a lot of these systems and structures in place for a long time. Last fall, we enhanced that plan and we unveiled a tiered system of really looking at our events and focusing on the collaboration, both in MCPS, but as well as our community partners, and really that team approach that's necessary to run our events. I'm proud to say in July, our principals and athletic specialists completed national certification in sport and risk event management. This was a 2-day course that was offered by the Department of Homeland Security and funded by FEMA. So I want to commend our high school athletic specialists and our high school principals for 2 days in July, really focusing in on that safety and security. We carried that momentum into this month, where last Friday we hosted our 25th annual police breakfast. That's with the MCPS Athletics and our police partners. That breakfast has expanded to include our CEOs, and this year, for the first time, our high school principals were part of that. So it was just amazing to see the collective IQ in the room, all focused on the proactive planning for our safe events as we turn the page into next week and opening night on September 1st. Our safety plan will start in Tier 1, which will include verifying schedules and making sure that the students of participating schools are attending that event. We want our students seated in the stands and in our games before halftime, no backpacks. So we have a communication campaign that will start today, system-wide, and into next week as we lead up to opening night. We've also provided resources to schools so that they can communicate on morning announcements, highlighted by a PSA recorded by our Student Athlete Leadership Council. Love our student voice, so anytime that we can infuse that in, really promote what we're doing through our students. So I commend the Leadership Council for recording that, and you will see that in your things to know and in the system-wide messaging as we get ready. So we are indeed ready to go. We are into the third week, and we hope to see everyone out, invite our communities out to our events to support our student athletes, and we know how important our program is to our overall community. So with that, I will turn things over to the board for any questions.
Ask board members to please turn their lights on if they have a question. Ms. Wolf.
I want to thank you for the presentation. I'm really pleased to see where we are. We are actually ready for Monday, so I'm really excited. I didn't sign up for 5 o'clock this year, but I will be there. Just a couple of things. On the hiring, of course, our Asian and Hispanic numbers are still relatively low. I was listening in on one of the Zooms yesterday with the delegation, and they mentioned, have we been recruiting at Goucher? And I know that we recruit at Montgomery College, but if we have not looked at Goucher, they suggested that that Goucher is a Hispanic serving institution, and we should look at them also for their education program. So, I mean, it's just a comment, and I'd like to see them added to the recruitment agenda if they're not currently on it. The other thing is, hold on, I got notes here. Can we get a breakout of the sites on slide 13? The slides, 59 sites, 117. Can we get a breakout of those? Yes. Thank you.
Slide what?
13. Free.
Oh, the site.
Yeah, just a breakout of it. Thank you. And the last thing I had was on slide 15. Well, I wrote it on slide 15. It's really a safety and security type thing. I remember, I don't know if it was at the last meeting, it was one of the meetings we had recently where I had asked that we consider doing regional meetings around to find out how people really feel about the CEO program, and to also get input about the questions we're getting about returning SROs to the schools. So I didn't know if that was moving along, if anybody was working on it, but I mean, I wanted it in every aspect of the county, every corner of the county.
I think we have.
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Wolf. Yes, that is something that we are working on now, and we're going to reach out to our students, to our families, and our communities, and really kind of see where they are in this space. I know that there was some changes made to the program over the past several years, and so in addition to the outreach that we've already done around, what is working with the new CEO 2.0 program, we will also engage in conversations around is there additional changes that need to be made, and that would be potentially one of them.
I would be interested when you're going on getting an invitation to come, because when we went to the MCC PTA clusters, this was a big discussion. I don't care where you were about returning SROs, and that's been very controversial for a number of reasons. So I would really like to hear directly from a broader base of the public than was attending those meetings. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. We can invite you, and we'll extend the invitation to the other board members as well.
Mr. Verhaven?
Oh, now it works. Thank you. I do have a few questions, and I don't want to be repetitive, so thank you for bringing up the voucher thing from yesterday's legislative briefing. But going to the summer program, I would like to have a better understanding, again, sorry, not here a year on the board, but of exactly how many kids that we have in the classroom over the summer. And I would like a breakdown of by district and then by elementary school, middle school, and high school, if that's possible. Because I know there's the number here, there's also online learning, there's a lot of other stuff, so I just want to get
Can you
it.
repeat that just for our notes?
So,
summer school
Summer
program.
school, the actual number of children that were sitting in the classroom having summer school program with a teacher. The breakdown of how many in elementary and middle and high school kids, and also by either school or district, or both.
By school. Does that make sense? Whoever's going to answer.
It does. We'll do a follow-up in terms of providing that information, and we will double-check just to make sure that we have everything. But I'm hearing a breakdown by program, region, and level for the different types of programs that we talked about earlier in the presentation.
Okay. Thank you. And then going to, okay, you already asked about the breakdown of the 59 schools. That would be great as well. Under the system-wide safety emergency management update, I know you said that they were the training for administrators for the OSET. OSET, yeah, and I'm just curious, or maybe I missed it, I'm sorry, of how many, what was the percentage of the administrators that took part in that training?
It's 93%. Yeah, 93%. And I know before we've talked about this, but as we hire staff, that training that, let's talk about the state level first. There's training that has to be offered at the state level. And when they're hired, we send staff when that training is available by the state. We have successfully been able to work with them to offer that more often than they had been, given the fact that we wanted to be into compliance. We have OSET teams in all of our schools, and that team's responsibility is to make sure they cover all parts of safety and security. And normally it's just like a lot of different staff. So we also, localize the training as well, just to make sure they locally understand all the components of safety for that particular area that they're responsible for, whether it may be a central office or a school.
Okay, awesome. For health and wellness, I know you talked about the immunizations, at least in my area, my district, I've been hearing that there's a long waiting time for a lot of the community clinics for the kids in elementary school to get immunized. Could you tell me where we are in compliance with the new students that are coming into MCPS, especially in the elementary school level?
I'm happy to give you that information as a follow-up. The school nurses reported to schools this week, and when they come and they do a sort of more comprehensive overview, so I'm happy to get you the most updated data. When we share information with families, we send out a community message saying this is coming, get ready, make sure that you get this taken care of when you do your summer physical. We also share information about the many clinics that DHH has. Through August and September, we'll also have a free immunization clinic at Wheaton for our back-to-school fair, and we actually give out many immunizations in our school-based health centers as well. So they're part of the outreach to families is if they're not able to get a appointment through their regular healthcare provider, there's many of other opportunities, including school-based opportunities, that we can connect them with.
Okay, I would really appreciate that, especially in DeKalb County. There is really a lack of community clinics in those areas. And I know that this has been definitely an issue. We're going to be doing some partnership at the Trailer Park community at Middlebrook this Saturday to kind of help with that. But I would love to know also if there's an area of concern regionally, if there's an area in the county that is less compliant than others, that would be helpful. And just going back to the I'm very excited. I just want to do a shout out to also Fox Chapel. We had a great community day last week. Last year, there were 20 families who participated. This year, there were over 200. So it was just a huge increase that I was able to do with the nonprofit that I run up county with them. And we're very excited to partner with them. So to all those schools who go that little extra mile in actually really reaching out to communities, especially communities that are not engaged, shout out to Mrs. Yates for personally texting, calling, and making sure that those communities felt that they were welcome. But with that in mind, Dr. Communion, I know you said about you're going to be offering immunizations at Wheaton. And you know, I know it's a big undertaking, but the back to school fair, if a family in Damascus wanted to go to the Wheaton fair on Saturday, they will have to take 6 buses in order to get there. And I don't know if that's well communicated to a lot of families or new families, but I know that, and I know that personally, as an advocate for many years, we have talked about having an event up county. This is geographically a big county. Public transportation is a huge issue, especially on the weekends. The availability of public transportation is not as readily available. It shouldn't be that way, but that's the way it is. It's just a fact. So I'm just putting in here that if you do a clinic for immunization down county or in Wheaton, that you should also consider the East County, and also you should consider the Up County. Happy to partner, happy to find partners, happy to find a location, but I just want us to be, that they are communities that would love to take advantage of this big fervor of, you know, welcoming the new school year, but there are also communities that cannot do that because of lack of transportation. And also, you know, there's a lot of communities that they're in a budget, and even driving from the area to Wheaton, it is an expense. So anyway, just wanted to put it out there for next year, and any support that MCP needs and putting that together in the Up County. I know there will be a lot of us who would be happy to help out with those efforts.
I'm so glad you brought that up. And I know that you're a vaccine policy access nerd like me.
I am.
And the one thing that I'm going to bring up is many of the public programs related to the public health emergency, including changes in access to COVID vaccine as we await the next iteration of the vaccine, which should be coming out in late September, early October. We're going to have to, or we've already started conversations with community partners, because it's going to require some work to make sure, just like in the very, very beginning, that everybody is reached in all aspects of vaccination, just not the COVID vaccination, but there are a lot of changes, you know, in terms of people's eligibility for Medicaid, how vaccines are being paid for, that are going to impact our families. So that's something that we have been discussing robustly with our community partners.
And yeah, can I just take an opportunity to advertise for the viewing audience that we do have free transportation from 4 of our high schools to the back to school fair. So we will be providing transportation this Saturday from Montgomery Blair High School, Paint Branch High School, Gaithersburg High School, and Richard Montgomery High School between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. So we hope that everyone will come out and join us at the fair.
Ms. Harris?
Ms. Sylvester, sorry, I had one more comment to just make about that. Well, thank you, Ms. Oven Rivera, for everything that you just shared, because we actually had to do a lot of work, as Dr. Kapunen mentioned, after COVID, to remind and work with our families to make sure students were getting those additional immunizations, because as COVID was here, you know, we were very focused on getting that done. The 2 areas that you mentioned, East County and Up County, we actually had 2 processes that we put in place. We had events at the Up County Regional Services in collaboration with Mr. Wims, who's the Up County Regional Director there. I know because I was out there and they had barbecue and everything else while they were giving immunizations and vaccinations last year. And then at East County, we held the vaccination clinics at the community centers and some of the large churches. So during COVID, you know, we were able to expand our partnership in different areas of the county, like you said, with many groups and advocacy groups and others. And so we're going to extend that same process and take advantage of those same locations that we've built relationships with to be able to continue with just the immunizations that students are required to get. The reason I mention that is because the Maryland State Department of Education actually had a waiver in place during COVID-19 to not impact student attendance if they didn't have immunizations because of the pandemic. Well, we're returning to them, expecting that students will be immunized when they return to school in order to be compliant, to be attendees within school. We don't want that to impact our enrollment. And we actually need these students in school. So, in the past, what we've done is had much of a heat map so that we would know where there was an issue, where we had a lack of immunization, so that we could, put in an all-in effort to make sure that by the end of that period that we're required to have students immunized, we were meeting that goal. So there is absolutely more that we can and will do, and more partners that we can extend ourselves with. But there's a certain level of accountability from the state as well that requires that we zone in on that piece. Because, it was actually pretty nerve-wracking to, at some point when the state was considering we're going to have those students not be enrolled, which meant we wouldn't even get funding for them if they did not meet those requirements. So as you said, it is incredibly important that we continue to work with our families to do that.
Ms. Harris.
Thank you. First of all, just my, as always, great gratitude for all the work that we're doing as a system to make sure we're creating a truly inclusive and affirming environment. Whatever a kid is doing, they're in a wellness center, they're in a classroom, they're playing a sport, and that we're really focusing on ensuring that the curriculum we deliver is windows and mirrors. Everybody sees themselves reflected in the content that they're studying in their classroom, and they're also learning about others whose experiences differ from them. I think that's our core mission. And a couple questions. Looking first at slide 4, talking about this work over the summer, and I did have and again, I know and I hear frequently from families who are very, very grateful that we were able to fully resume our extended school year program for our students with special needs. I think that is, it's huge. And the question I have is, you mentioned 2 CTE hybrid sites and career technology education happening in summer school. What courses were we offering, and was that Edison and Seneca Valley?
I'm going to have to specifically get back to you on that. Irina is absent today, and she would know the courses that were offered, so
okay,
get you the information.
So when we say 2 hybrid sites, they could do virtual and in person? Okay. All right. Okay. And a question I had looking at slide 13, talking about our food service and mentioning piloting getting more local produce in our lunch programs. If I'm a student going into the lunchroom, what does that mean for me? What will I see when it comes to seeing more locally grown produce? And I also know that DFNS was working on a program to partner with some of our local growers so that they could meet the bureaucratic check boxes that the USDA requires for vendors to sell produce to school lunch programs. And so how is that going?
We have made progress. One of the big things that I do want to mention, we have started to partner with some local farmers. The one part that we have to keep in mind, the number of children that we feed. So we do not have enough farmers that would be able to supply, for every single school. This summer, I went over to Central Production and I walk into a skid of potatoes that had come from a local farmer, and they were trying out different recipes, roasted potatoes, potatoes, potato salad, different things that actually met the nutritional value, but also gave us an opportunity to really incorporate those into our meals. So we will, what we're looking at is trying to figure out how to do that and what locations that will go to, as well as trying to continue to make those partnerships with other farmers. So I'd love to come back and be able to talk about that and be able to keep you updated, as well as when if we have the opportunity to visit some of those locations, we can. But the potatoes were very exciting, and the potato salad was very, very good. We actually did take some machinery from another school system who they're not getting local produce. And so we were able to benefit from that to be able to help us to really create some really good recipes.
Now, I know in the past I've seen in lunchrooms, there would be, in our new signage and the new software that we purchased for use in our lunchrooms and in GFNS, their local produce is, there's a symbol or something
It's signage that gives the symbol of where it comes from, but also the type, whether it's a vegetarian option that's there. And I think we started that, I think it was last year. We started to put the signage out last year. It was something we talked to our managers about this year so that students know. Again, looking at having back to school night as an opportunity for our parents to come through our lines and for them to be kind of associated with that signage. But you also talked about a contract we recently brought forward in terms of really digitizing that information and making it in a way that students kind of attract more to on a screen within the cafeterias.
Yeah, I mean, I see labeling when we can, menu items that are locally grown and highlighting that sourcing as one way that kind of ties into some of the work that we're trying to do around 21st century green jobs and getting students to think about through education programs like CASE about the importance of agriculture. And I think that, every little thing, you never know what's going to make a kid think about other educational opportunities. So anyway, I do appreciate that work. And I did want to comment on Mr. Adams talking about this summer they've had with facilities. I have been out in a lot of schools, and every single one there's facilities stuff happening. And I was at Montgomery Knowles last week, and they are having their PEP program is greatly expanding this year. And so facilities was there putting in a ramp so that they could accommodate the accessibility needs of their new students. And the principal, Pam Parker, was just so excited and so appreciative of that work. And so, thank you. I told her I'd tell you if I saw you. Question I have too, going down, I did want to also thank Dr. Kapunen. We didn't talk about it here, but I really appreciated her weekly health update message highlighting the new public health emergency that around gun violence. And now, sadly, in the United States, the leading cause of death for the first time ever in young people aged 0 to 19 is gun violence. And so I hope that in the past we've talked about our partnership with our community organizations that are working tirelessly around ending gun violence. So Moms Demand Action and Every Town, and how we as a system share out some of their materials and information regularly at the beginning of each school year around safe storage and around ghost guns and that kind of thing. And with this new, the work that Dr. Kapunen is doing to highlight this new public health emergency, I'm hoping that's going to be a renewed opportunity for us to really partner and share that information throughout our communities, because it is, to me as a public health injury prevention person, that's hugely alarming. And I so appreciate you being on it. And I know there are students in our system that are also very concerned and want to work on these issues with you and
thank you
alongside you.
One comment, please. I know Dr. Kapunen joined us at the table, and if she had something to add. But I want to thank you, Ms. Harris, for raising that. When we were, after coming out of the pandemic, when we recognized that students had more readily access to guns and things like that, we actually formed partnerships that we are continuing with many of our police departments and municipalities to help do our part, because it does become a problem for us when those weapons end up in the hands of our students, because then we have to be concerned about them ending up in our places of learning, schools, games, et cetera. And that has been a real concern for us. Last year, before the back-to-school night, before the back-to-school fair, on Saturday, if you remember, the city of Rockville hosted the gun buyback program, and we worked with them and supported that effort. And I know they're doing the same, actually, this Saturday. There's going to be one. So I know Chief Pam is, will be working with our leaders as well to be able to continue that, but it is certainly a connection of impact that we have to consider when it happens in our community for the school perspective. So we are continuing those partnerships.
And I just wanted to provide background in case folks had not read the article, but there was an article this week in Pediatrics that examined pediatric fatalities due to firearm violence from 2018 to 2021, and really showed that it has been increasing. It spiked in 2020, but between 2020 and 2021 also increased. And what the authors found is that there are great disparities in who dies from firearms, with older teenagers, males, Black children, and there are certain geographical elements as well as children living in poverty. So as we talk a lot about disparities in health and what it takes for children to engage, understanding the impact of violence, how to talk to them about what's happening in the community is going to be really important. So thank you for bringing that up. But this was not work, but a study that was done that was published this week in the medical literature.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Saeed?
I'll keep my comments brief in interest of time. But first, Dana, please get us those free samples for lunches, please. I think it'll make the meetings go by faster, and I'm really interested in getting those. So definitely want that. And then in regards to the athletic trainer video, if you ever need an Instagram reel or TikTok, just let me know, because that's something I'm really trying to do. And that got a lot of popularity and a lot of hype among students. So I got you, basically, if you ever need that. So just a couple quick questions here. Kind of going back to the professional learning that was conducted for school administrators and just for teachers in general. I know that a lot of students are really interested in kind of, the push for restorative justice and dealing with the real world scenarios that I know was discussed. So I just want to know like some specific, examples during that training of how restorative justice was kind of tied in with dealing with those real world scenarios, just so when students, because they always tell me like, oh, administration doesn't handle these cases well. They're always, they just don't feel as though administration's really in touch in handling those. So I want to know what kind of restorative justice training was received by administration at this professional learning.
Greetings, board members. President Silvestri, Dr. McKnight, Mr. Saeed, Damon Monteleone, one of the Associate Superintendents, School Support and Wellbeing. I had the honor of being one of the presenters and facilitators at the training last week, and Ms. Shauna K. Duranby, Director of SEBHA and who supervises restorative justice, essentially just went over a lot of the upgrades that were made this year in terms of, and I think a key one that we heard of and that we now have is a written parental consent for students to engage in any type of restorative circle, right, or conversation after an incident. So that is a key piece. Mr. Duranby also went forward and shared data. It's also in the compliance training that I took earlier this week about how restorative justice components and allocations are used, right? So an overwhelming majority of the time that our restorative justice specialists spend in schools is spent around proactive training and coaching and professional development with staff on how to create welcoming and inclusive learning environments, how to embed community circles within your classroom as part of the pedagogical experience, how counselors can infuse these practices as well. She also spoke to really heavily about the use of a restorative justice specialist in tandem with social workers in being able to both proactively and in response to incidents bring down the number of suspensions. While I don't have it here in front of me today, we do have data that shows correlation between the presence of a restorative justice specialist at the middle school level specifically and a decrease in suspensions at those middle schools. So it was really an overview of where we have been. There was also some conversation presentation and some sharing about the restorative justice implementation guide and the assessment that schools took. We have about 20 schools, I believe, offhand that self-identified as being in the infancy of implementation there or reactive. And so she spoke about ways that schools can work with her team to move along that continuum. So it was really kind of an overview. The last piece to this, which is partially, we can fold it under the umbrella of restorative justice, but a side piece to Mr. MD's work is around suspension reduction. So one of the pieces that her team has brought forward in concert with the school supervisory directors is what's known as the 4 core, or the alternatives to suspension. So there's a Canvas page that has resources and supports and materials for how administrators can consider other avenues of response to disciplinary infractions, such as having a parent shadow the student through the school day, having the students engage in learning or research, specifically if the infraction was around a hate bias incident or something to that effect. There was also a presentation about the modifications to the Code of Conduct, right? So a key piece of this is highlighting explicitly within the Code of Conduct where, when, and how restorative justice can be applied on the continuum, right, of dispositions and responses. Additionally, a new piece of the Code of Conduct is explicitly calling out hate bias incidents and not having them folded within the bullying row right there. So these are all just highlights, and we wanted to make sure that principals were aware of the Code of Conduct revisions, wanted to make sure principals are aware of the use of social workers and restorative justice specialists in really helping to bring down those suspensions. And we looked at some of the indicators for which students have been suspended over the last several years that really should not be used as suspension. Disruption, insubordination, disrespect, things of those nature. So she kind of went over all of that and spoke really to a couple of the key revisions, as I said, such as the parental consent for students who engage in that restorative circle after an incident.
Fantastic. Yeah. Thank you so much. And I think students are really going to be happy to hear about that decrease in the use of suspensions, because that was really, really big during my campaign as students did not feel that was effective. So I appreciate that. And then just one more quick question that was kind of touched upon earlier, but I just want to kind of get the more specifics on. So when it comes to hiring teachers, where that was in the presentation, what specific practices and methods are we using to ensure that we are getting the most diverse teacher hires and, administration as well? I see that the administration, hires were a lot more diverse. So I want to know the specific strategies we're using, because, I am seeing 50% Caucasian teachers, and when you look at the, school data, an overwhelming majority of teachers in all these schools are Caucasian, which don't even reflect a lot of the school's population of their students. So I just want to know what specific strategies are being used. So when a kid tells me my teachers don't look like me, I can explain what we're doing to help them.
Thank you, Mr. Said. Our recruiters go to Asian-facing institutions, historically Black colleges, Latin-facing institutions. We've built a recent relationship with ALAS. So we are looking to continue those efforts to recruit in environments that provide us with diverse candidates. Additionally, we recently gave our staffing teams the demographics for each school. So when hiring either an administrator or a teacher, our staffer is able to say, well, I can see from your roster that you don't have any African-American teachers. Let me give you some names. So we're really trying to individualize the support we provide to schools so that they get the diverse teachers and administrators that they need.
Perfect. Yeah, that's good. Thanks.
And can I just add as well, when we look at our current teaching workforce, it's about 30% diverse people of color. And with the new hires that we have this year, as you can see, it's 50%. So that's a pretty significant increase from 30% to 50%. So we're moving in the right direction.
The 30% figure was from when?
Currently, our current teaching staff. And then the 50% is the new hires for this year.
My question is also about hiring. I'm excited about the progress that we've made with teachers and bus drivers, and I want to see that progress also with security personnel. I see we're at 97%. What can we do? What are we doing to get to that 100%? Because as we have heard from our parents and our communities, our teachers and staff is, we need the bodies also in the schools to help monitor the hallways, the bathrooms, support the CEOs and the principals, et cetera. So tell us more about what we're doing to doubling down the next few days to get more people through the process. Use this as a little advertisement right now. How much are we paying? How many people are we hiring? Please.
We have vacancies in security. Of course, we have teacher vacancies. We have all kinds of support vacancies. We're really looking for paraeducators. We are quickly trying to have the ones that we have currently become teachers, so we're needing to backfill them in the positions. So with respect to just all of our SEIU jobs, we've had a recent SEIU job fair, and we hadn't been doing a lot of those, so we are doing those now to ensure that we can get staffing for our support professionals.
Specifically about security, is there anything that's being done to get, it was 97% security, school security staffed as of August 17th. Is there anything special that we're doing to get, because again, this is so important to
Ms.
our
Bradley
families.
will come and share.
Good afternoon. My name is Ella Bradley, and I'm the Director of Human Capital Management. So we're working collaboratively with the Security Office to identify as soon as applicants come in and to screen them as quickly as possible to ensure that they meet the minimum qualifications, and then pass them on to the Security Office so that they can do the interviews as well, and then to support the schools in terms of communicating with them when the applicants have come in, ensuring that they are highly qualified and look what they are trying to match up, what they're looking for and what the candidate is as well. So ensuring that there's no barriers as well. As Ms. Key mentioned, we had recruitment efforts. We had a fair at Montgomery College where we had a lot of people who were attending and collecting applications, advertising on our website, things like that.
I also wanted to add in, I'm sure we're going to do the same as we did last year, but we turned our back to school fair. We had a table there for hiring as well.
Correct.
So that will be the case on Saturday in terms of making the connection around how do we bring diversity into some of these specific areas. When we're there hiring at, I used to call it Wheaton Plaza, but it's Westfield Shopping Center, thank you. The Wheaton Westfield Shopping Center, that is also an area that we know that represents a lot of diversity within our community. So we want to, the purpose of us going out to those places so that we can take advantage of the diversity in our community in specific areas for these type of positions that we know. And you're absolutely right, Ms. Silvestri. This is one of the board priorities. And I'm going to continue to say, we see our role as going out into the community and take advantage of the diversity and talent that is right here in Montgomery County. We do go out also, but we know that we have to capitalize on one of the biggest strengths of our community, and that is the diversity that's right here. So just another example of how we do that.
Thank you. I just want you to please keep the focus on our security personnel so that we can be 100% staffed shortly. I did have a question about slide 5, the district professional learning. It's just always helpful to have percentages. You have raw numbers there. 3,135 staff members completed the elementary language arts training. Is that 50% of our staff? Is that 75% of our staff? Anyone have any ideas about that? Or if you don't, then that's a good, but just for the future, it's just good to have, what does this number mean? Is this good, bad, more than last year? Just to give us some additional context.
Does anybody know the answer?
I think Ms. Pugh said she will get back to us.
Dr. Pugh.
Ms. Rivera-Allen, did you have?
I just, before we end, when we were talking about recruiting diversity and somebody mentioned job fairs, just wondering what our relationships are with the different the minority chambers of commerce that we have locally, the African American Chamber of Commerce, the Hispanic, Latino Chamber of Commerce, and the Asian. Just if we participate with them, and do we have an ongoing relationship?
Just recently, we started to establish relationships with community organizations, period. I don't know if we reached out to the chambers, but we certainly have looked at community groups that are cultural specific so that we can try to gain entrance into the community that way. But we will take your recommendation and we will find out where the chambers are and can we hook up.
And I'm going to provide a little cushion for Ms. Key and Ms. Bradley because they are new to the organization just by a couple of months and weeks. So last year was our first year actually establishing a relationship with the chamber supporting us for Latino recruitment specifically. We actually co-hosted an event together with them because we recognized just getting ideas and thoughts from them and then going out and hosting our job fair was less effective than working with them and bringing them to be a part of the job fairs with us. So I cannot think of any reason why we would have stopped that, but I know that is what I will have Ms. Bradley and Ms. Key go back and work with the staff to make sure we're continuing to build that. I know last year was our first time doing that, and I was very happy and proud of that accomplishment, but I think, our goal is to get to all of the chambers so that we can continue to take advantage of all of the areas of diversity.
I'm going to just ask my final two questions as a follow-up just to keep us on time. For the food and nutrition, Ms. Edwards, you mentioned a couple new programs. I'd like to hear, as a follow-up, what the trend is. Do you see that there's a lot of interest in the community in making meals free for everyone? And I see that that's happening through certain programs, but I'd like to better understand where are we going with the free meals program, the universal free meals in the state of Maryland in particular. And my other for follow-up is community member asked me, what are we continuing to do about the opioid crisis? Our strategy last year was largely around education, having families and students be more informed about the dangers, how to help a friend, Narcan. What are we doing this year? The same, different, just so that I can be better prepared to respond to that.
I can actually answer that one right now in just a few seconds, the latter part of your question. So I know Dr. Kapunin has been working with different organizations and advocacy groups because we recognize that the biggest issue that we found and we heard from our communities as barriers was what happened if a student actually already had an experience with fentanyl and some places had an addiction and we didn't have enough statewide facilities to be able to support that. So I know a big part of our work is helping to work with legislators and others and working with state organizations to help develop a plan to make sure we have more of those facilities available. That's the key. That was the biggest part that we heard from our community last year. You're doing a lot of things to help prevention, but what happens when, in fact, we have a student who is experiencing addiction? So, of course, that's work that we have to do in partnership with others. So I just wanted to share that because that's our work. That is the next step, but that we have to do in partnership.
Thank you. So again, we are all really excited about starting school on Monday. It's going to be a fabulous year. We're all together now, as Dr. McKnight says. And so thank you so much for the presentation, and we're looking forward to visiting all those wonderful schools next week.
Thank you.
So we are moving on to our next agenda item, which is our discussion about our program evaluation. Just give a moment to transition. And the board is very, very much interested in knowing what's working and what's not working in our programs, in our strategies, in our initiatives, in our pilot programs. And so we are very interested in this topic and appreciate the presentation, the opportunity to hear about your evaluation plan for the upcoming year, so that we can be very informed about decisions that we will have to make in terms of planning for the budget and for programs for the upcoming year. So with that, I'll pass it to Dr. McKnight.
Thank you, President Silvestri. So We are here today to propose the program evaluation for the 23-24 school year. If you remember last year, Dr. Murphy shared a process of how we were going to evaluate programs to ensure that we were looking at the impact of programs, most importantly to determine what we needed to continue, if we needed to pause, if we needed to stop. And most importantly, so that we would be able to take that evaluation or those evaluations and then determine what should be our investments based on what we've learned. So each year we have the responsibility of coming forward and sharing which programs are up for formal program evaluations. If you can only imagine, a system this large, 211 schools, 160,000 students, 25,000 staff, and the different needs that exist in our programs, we have a lot of programs. So we have to be very intentional about what we can and should evaluate. The other thing I want to bring to our attention is this becomes very important because this year, as the board has already started this discussion, this is our last year of taking advantage of our ESSER funds. Many of our programs have been funded in that venue, and so we are looking closely at what programs we have been able to provide and have exist in our schools based on that level of funding. So the goal is that we are able to share this plan with our community to promote not only accountability but more transparency about how these programs are working. So with that, I'd like to thank Ms. Dr. Addison and welcome her to the table, and I'll turn the presentation over to you at this time.
Thank you, Dr. McKnight. Good afternoon, Ms. Silvestri and members of the board. If we could have the slide deck up, please. Thank you. So this slide first just provides an outline of what you will hear this afternoon. You're going to hear a reminder around the definition of program evaluation. We presented that to you on April 20th, as Dr. McKnight referenced. You're going to hear about why program evaluation matters, not only just overall, but more specifically for what we do in MCPS. You're going to learn about the key stages of program evaluation, and then we're going to engage in a discussion around the proposed list of program evaluation. Next slide, please. So this slide is a reminder of what we shared with you on April 20th in terms of program evaluation, providing a definition about what program evaluation is. It's the systematic process of assessing the design, implementation, and outcomes of programs to determine effectiveness, efficiency, and relevance in relation to established goals and objectives. And what you see under that definition are two approaches in MCPS that we undertake for our program evaluations. Program evaluation is not new to MCPS. We've been doing it for a long time. And so in shared accountability, we typically approach it from two perspectives. One is a process or an implementation evaluation, which is really focused on the extent to which the program is being implemented as intended. Is it reaching the targeted audience? What are the goals? Are they meeting those kind of implementation and process related things? And the other piece is outcome evaluation. And so we engage in that to really look at the outcomes of the impact of a program on whatever the goals might be. So for example, when we look at summer school program evaluation, we tend to look at the extent to which summer school helped reduce or mitigate summer learning loss. And so we would look at the outcome of how did students in their spring school year before they went to summer school, and then how did they start their fall school year in terms of performance. And we typically use the MAP assessment for that because it is measured at multiple seasons. So that's just an example of what an outcome evaluation might be. Through program evaluation, we use multiple data sources that are both quantitative and qualitative. So those little icons at the bottom give you some of the data collection approaches that we might take in a program evaluation. And they're intended to ensure that the outcomes align to things that we hear from stakeholders and observations of programs. Next slide, please. So why program evaluation, or what's the importance of program evaluation? It serves a number of purposes that align with our theory of action. Our theory of action states that we must differentiate resources, build staff capacity, and have strong measures of accountability. Program evaluation is, again, that systematic process that assesses the effectiveness and efficiency and relevance of programs or projects. It involves collecting data and analyzing data to determine how well a program is achieving its goals and making informed decisions. And for many process or implementation evaluations, there's an aspect of examining the processes such as professional development designed to build staff capacity in the area under examination. And so as I proceed through this presentation, I'll share with you the FY24 evaluation process and areas of study. Now, it's important to note that while shared accountability leads our efforts to engage in formal program evaluations, ongoing program monitoring is of other critical areas of work in alignment with the theory of action are implemented and built into all central office improvement plans as another structure of accountability for us in our ongoing work. Next slide, please. So this visual is intended to provide you with an understanding of the steps in an evaluation process. Program evaluation takes time, and we really need to understand that there are multiple steps that are engaged in the implementation of a program evaluation. It involves planning, data collection, analysis, interpretation, reporting, and decision-making. And additionally, gathering relevant data through methods like surveys, interviews, and observations is essential for accurate program evaluation. And so throughout the process, there is stakeholder involvement or engagement. We recognize and acknowledge that involving program participants, beneficiaries, and communities in the evaluation process enhances its validity and relevance. So I don't want to get too weedy, but I would like to tell you a little bit about the planning and design phase of program evaluation. During this phase, an evaluation specialist works with the program manager to discuss clear goals about the program, clear goals, understanding the objectives of the program, and then developing clear goals and objectives of the evaluation itself. And essential information about the program or initiative is shared with the evaluation specialists, such as the program goal, the target audience, and financial information. So we request all of those things to include in an evaluation report. And staff use this information to identify appropriate evaluation methods and begin to lay the foundation of the evaluation process that includes a timeline of data collection activities. So that initial phase is kind of the startup of learning what is the program, what is the initiative, mapping out a timeline, and we have a designated date by which I request staff to have these plans developed. Next slide, please. So this is the first slide of two slides that detail the proposed program evaluations for the 2023-2024 school year. There is a more detailed table in the board memo that also includes the focus of each topic, as well as a tentative timeline for completion. Indicated on this slide are not only the topics that are proposed for program evaluation, but also the alignment to your board priorities, and strategic planning alignment. And in addition, you see what type of evaluation is proposed, be it process or outcome. And the majority of the topics on this slide are funded by ESSER, with the exception of structured literacy, which would be a continuing project that is under our operating budget. Next slide, as well as tutoring. I missed that one too. That one's also operating budget. Next slide, please. Oh, this one, don't move. All right, so this slide includes a continuation of the proposed projects. All of these topics are under the operating budget, with both the mathematics coaches and the academic opportunity specialists being accelerators that were brought forward this past school year. The central program identification topic has embedded in it 3 separate outcome evaluations, just grouped under one heading. And so as a district, we leverage results from the choice study to increase equity of access through a central identification process and a recommendation process. And program managers, community members, and you as board members have asked questions about impact related to the central program identification process, which is the intent of these examinations. And so as a note, staff have examined performance of students in these programs before, but we want to engage in some multi-year examination and analysis of the central program identification processes. Next slide, please. So this slide is just a different visual of what was brought forward to you on April the 20th. It provides the visibility of the planned responsive action an approach to recommendations indicated in program evaluation reports that further underscores the implementation of accountability structures as espoused in the theory of action. To review the process, again, once drafts are completed, they are shared with the program manager and the chief, of which the program falls under. And that they are charged then to provide responsive action to the recommendations in the report. And then once that comes, the responsive action must also include a timeline for implementation of any adjustments or modifications they may need to make as it relates to those recommendations. And then once the draft of the report with the responsive action plan is sent back to shared accountability, it is then shared with the deputy superintendent for his review, and then shared with Dr. McKnight and you as the board members for final review and sharing. And once it goes through all of those phases, then we will post it publicly online for access by the community. And the reports are uploaded to our shared accountability webpage. We have a webpage of all reports that kind of go up there, so we would place it there. Next slide. Excuse me. So here again, thank you. I know, right? The excitement about evaluation. Okay. So here again, another blast from the past. We shared this framework, evaluation framework, with you on April the 20th. Again, we brought this forward as an easy way to share kind of this color coding system to help with decision making related to evaluations and projects. And so as you receive program evaluation reports, you will see a stoplight color designation at the end of the report that basically shares, based on the findings, the recommendations from the evaluators, whether there's a recommendation to continue, not continue, or maintain a status for these program evaluations to help support in the decision-making process. And it also helps with our being fiscally responsible stewards of our investments. Excuse me. Next slide, please. All right, so to summarize what was shared, program evaluation is a powerful tool that, when done well, enhances program effectiveness and impact. It supports informed decision-making and resource allocation, and it drives our continuous improvement and accountability. Sharing evaluation findings fosters transparency and open communication both internally and externally, building trust and credibility with our stakeholders. And regular program evaluations create a culture of continuous improvement and encourages us to consistently strive for better results. Thank you for exploring the world of program evaluation. Next slide, and now I turn it over to you all for a discussion.
Thank you for that. I will ask my colleagues to turn on their lights if they have any questions, starting with Ms. Yang.
Hey, good afternoon. Thank you for being here. This has been couple months of process of us trying to do this, and this is important as we are helping our students to achieve that our decisions are based on our value, our priorities, our strategic planning, and informed by the data. And also, actually, by the data, outcome data, stakeholder experiences, and also the financial feasibility, right? Now, I have a few clarification questions in terms of implementation, right? So when we are doing this evaluation process, whether to evaluate if the program is effective, do we take into consideration the number of staffing that's involved in doing the work? Yeah. Oh, too many lights are on? Okay.
Thank you. So I'll give an example of structured literacy. Part of that program evaluation, which will be coming to you soon, involved classroom observations. And we know that in our district, there was a primary focus for all teachers, especially at the elementary level, to be trained in the science of reading to implement structured literacy. And so part of that program is we know that teachers were trained, everyone received it, who attended it. We had really high percentage of staff who participated in that training. And so we know that the skill set was provided. However, we know that when we're examining a program from program evaluation perspective, the fidelity of implementation is a major factor as well. And so this is the value of a process or implementation evaluation prior to an outcome evaluation at times, because it's not only just the number of staff who are available to implement it, but also the extent to which staff are implementing it as intended. Because if it's not being implemented as intended, then we would not yet be able to see the outcomes that we're looking for. And so we do take those into consideration.
I think part of what I'm thinking is we have 3 levels of programs, right? Red, yellow, and green. I'm just wondering if we find a program is marginally successful, are we looking at also the staffing investment in that?
Can we, so I have the order, Ms. Wood, Mr. Saeed, Ms. Harris, and we turn off all the lights, that way if our presenter wants to speak, if our superintendent wants to speak, we'll have the lights available. Thank you. And your water bottles again.
So, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, we do take that into consideration.
Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. And then I think similar to that is when we are looking at the program, when we evaluating, are we taking into account the price tag of a program?
So we have not done that as well as we could have been doing in terms of in our program evaluation reports. But this is the value of the process that we're implementing that we shared with you in April that we're bringing forward. And so embedded in our program evaluations, there will be more detailed information around the cost of the program so that you can then see the connection between, okay, this program costs $2 million, it's impacting these students, and here are, let's say it's an outcome evaluation, here are the outcomes that we see. Okay. And as you think about the color coding, one of the things that is valuable about program evaluation reports are we do take into account the findings and the information, not only from the data collected in terms of the quantitative information, but the survey feedback from those who might be implementing it to inform the recommendations and help with that designation of the color coding.
All right, so if that is the case, now you explain how this will come to the board, and I am just wondering, first of all, is it what kind of format? And second of all, if it's a program that, for example, designated as a yellow, right, when would it come back to the board again to let us know how it has, or do we plan to come back to the board and let us know maybe the outcome of that year, right? And also, once you come to the board, I have multi-step question. Is this like when it goes to the superintendent, then gets to the board as recommendations? How does that work? Are we raising our hands to continue or discontinue programs? I just want to get clarification.
Yes, we can start from the latter and move back to the to your first questions. But yes, so we would bring, as we normally do with all the information that we have, bring the results of the program evaluation back. Like, for instance, this year you received some reports on some programs that we evaluated, and then we actually have a discussion about that program if, oftentimes they fall under our priorities of academic excellence. Let's say if it's an academic program, or in the area of social-emotional support and community engagement. It comes back designed in our board agenda within the areas that it fits in. And so that's when we're able to have our discussion. If there are some programs that, we have some evaluation questions about, it may be something that we just send information out and say, we don't have a process to formally discuss that, but it's something that we want to bring to your attention that may have us, start to have a conversation, let's say with the vendor, to say, we're not sure that we're going to continue this with you, but we want to give you an FYI even if we're not having a formal discussion about it. So those are the ways in which we'll engage around that program evaluation.
So, Dr. Agderson, you have a small office, but I think they're very mighty because there are a lot of programs to be evaluated. So I understand this is to be done this year. Do we have more specific timelines of when they will come to the board?
Yes, in the memo, there's an attachment in the back of the memo that includes it. So this couldn't fit on the slide. But yes, in the memo, we do specify the window of time for each of these topics that are indicated. And to your point, one of the things that we're working on is to ensure a more timely delivery of these to inform each budget season. We start our budget seasons relatively early. And so the extent to which, you're right, the small but mighty team are working on these, we're trying to do better in terms of getting things mid-year so that can help inform some of the decision-making that needs to come.
Yeah, because that is crucial. I appreciate that because some of these are big ticket items that will have clear implication of our budget. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we'll just go around, ask board members if they could ask 2 questions, and then we'll come back. Ms. Wolf? Did you have your light on? Go ahead, Ms. Rivera-Oven.
Just quickly.
Everybody has.
Board Member Julie Yang asked some of those questions. I was just interested because some, as she said, some of them are bigger items than others. I just was wondering what is the classification, how you go about choosing the programs that you're going to do. I would look at the timeline as well. And I guess my interest is also the price tag equals pupil per pupil. You know, like at the end of the day, this program is costing us per student this much, and this is how much we have invested during this program. That, I think, for me is also really important. And then when you get the feedback, when you're doing the feedback from the community, I'm just interested, what is a good feedback? What's the pool? Because you might have some programs that affect a few dozen students versus that affect 30,000 students. So I'm just interested to know what is a good pool number in order to make those assessments.
Yes. So first I want to answer your question in terms of the prioritization or why these programs, how these programs came to be. Really and truly, we look at what your priorities are as a board that align with the board. ESSER-funded programs actually require an evaluation aspect, so intentionally putting them on the list. And then, as you've discussed as a board and as we've heard from community members around our FY24 budget, the questions that come during that budget time and those conversations and the interest around the impact of some of these new investments are the major drivers around a lot of these programs that are indicated here. So we really want to look at what your priorities are and ensure the alignment to district priorities, strategic plan, and community interest. I appreciate your recommendation or statement around per pupil cost inclusion. That's not something we've talked about as a team, so we can I'll definitely take that back as a value add in terms of the work that we do around program evaluation.
Ms. Wolf?
I just had a couple of questions. On slide 6, you said these were all ESSER-funded programs?
Except summer school and tutoring.
Okay, but what I'm
structure literacy as well.
Okay, what I'm trying to understand is the board wanted, I know that ESSER-funded positions are in our current budget, positions that we might want to move to operational budget. I just want to know are those programs associated with those people in the evaluation phase this year? Do you understand what I'm asking you? Because we were trying to figure out if we're going to continue them. So they would have to have a program evaluation this year.
So I would, if we could go to the next slide.
You said those were operational.
They are. Originally, though, so when you think about restorative justice specialists, those are heavily, the positions are in the ESSER budget. And so the original interest around this actually was for FY23. We just had to put it on hold for this year. So there is program aspects connected to that we can embed in the program evaluation.
Because I was going to ask you where the social workers are, and you said they were under, I figured they were under restorative justice, which is under the operation, but they're just being funded by ESSER. Okay, I just wanted to be clear about that. And the other thing I wanted to ask you is, on your survey feedback, you are getting feedback from parents, students?
Yes, depending on the program. So, example would have been Leader in Me. We did parents, students, and staff.
So I was just wondering about summer school and tutoring, that kind of thing.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I have one comment, and I know is Mr. Hull in the room? But Dr. Murphy, you might be able to address this as well as Dr. Addison, but there were any of the programs that we had listed for program evaluation, were any of them in this current last budget moved from ESSER to the, moved, am I saying it backwards, moved
Budget.
from the operating budget to ESSER?
Yes.
Okay, yes, I thought it was important that I knew the answer was yes, but I thought it was important for us to point that out.
Can you say which ones?
Yeah.
So
You're asking what?
Eureka Math curriculum, that's indicated here. In my conversations with program staff, it's temporarily in ESSER, but it's normally in the operating budget, as well as on the Enriched Literacy curriculum and the Benchmark Advance. Those were also temporarily ESSER, but they're normally in the operating budget. Those were the ones that I'm aware of in the list that's included.
Tutoring, summer school?
Yeah.
Summer school has been ESSER since I think the first year.
Okay.
But tutoring, I think, is in a different bucket on its own.
Yes, so summer school had been one that we funded by ESSER, which is why when we were not getting the full funding, we were able to, transparently with our community share that we would not be able to carry all of the summer school funding moving forward. So I wanted to highlight that because it's an important part of this, because, we may find that there was value in the large summer school programs we were able to offer, which were free for so many of our students, but we are going to have to think about what that means moving forward for financial implications. For tutoring, at some point we were, at the beginning of the pandemic, I know, using ESSER funding for tutoring as well. That was one of the programs that we said we wanted to look at in an innovative perspective while we had that extra money to see how it was additive to students and their progress. But it sounds like we did move some of that to operating budget. Am I?
We had put it in the original budget request, but then when we had to trim back, it did get trimmed.
I guess the only thing I wanted to be sure I was understanding is that whatever's funded by ESSER funds that we're thinking of moving into the operational budget, we have some evaluation for to justify it.
That's right.
Okay.
Yes, and that is one of the reasons why they are on this list, to help inform that decision-making.
Just wanted to clarify what Ms. Wolf said. Where are the social workers?
So they are not, they're two separate lines. So they are not on here, but they are ESSER funded, so if that is an interest.
But you're not evaluating the effectiveness of the social worker.
It is, right, it is not about the position or the individuals in the position, but it's about the services that they provide in alignment.
They contribute to the restorative justice program.
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Evans, do you have any questions?
So no, what Ms. Rivera-Oven said was similar to what my thinking was around the finance piece to it. But I also was going to say what I appreciate is that we took current board priorities to put them on the evaluation list, to begin evaluating them in the very beginning, to see where it's taken us and how it looks. So in the event that we want to course correct or change direction, we can do that. So I was just going to say that I'm glad that we didn't pull a lot of old programs that we're working on, that we're looking at what we're currently doing to see how it's moving the system. No, thank you. Dr. Addison.
Ms. Mondrowski, do you have any questions? Ms. Harris.
Yes, thank you. And I just, I so appreciate anytime we start any of these conversations talking about theory of action and coherence. it's all about how we are doing a better job of comprehensively evaluating the work that we're doing. And also just following up on Ms. Yang, Ms. Rivera-Oven, and Ms. Evans, the whole, when we were looking at programs, including that evaluation piece of how many students are we impacting based on the amount of money we're spending on the program, because I think we do have a history of spending really, really large amounts of money on programs that affect very, very few. And I think we're going to have hard conversations during this operating budget season, and that's going to be important information to have. I think we may have to make hard choices. And I do, so just a little flat, coming attractions, and Ms. Rivera-Oven, Ms. Mondrowski, and I, the mighty Fiscal Management Committee, one of the things that we'll be doing in our next few Fiscal Management Committee meetings is building kind of both an ESSER tracker piece to the way we look at the fiscal work we're doing, and also a base budget review. And so this kind of evaluation is going to be really helpful to us as we look at the funding streams, and I appreciate you talking about that a little bit as we look at each program, depending on the recommendations that come forward. Where are we going to be looking at a stream of funding to continue supporting the programs that we want to continue to support? And the one question I had, and I'm thinking about this, I really appreciate that we have the two-way immersion here, because some of our innovative programs were really just getting started when COVID hit. It makes it very, very difficult for us to, whatever the underlying overarching evidence base and purpose for implementation was initially, it was very hard for us to analyze effectiveness. And so wondering if and no is a good answer, a fine answer, when we'll be taking that same look at our innovative calendar schools. And I'm reflecting on the testimony that we heard earlier today from Ms. Favir.
Yes, so for innovative school calendar, we completed a program evaluation maybe 2.5 years ago. And we have an update to that. We did not engage in stakeholder feedback for the update, but really looking at outcomes. So the initial report, which I'll just verify, and if you have not seen it, we can make sure that comes to you. But you can see the initial report, and then the findings from the outcome evaluation from the 22-23 school year is on the horizon. So you'll see that in the next 2 to 4 weeks.
Okay. Oh, good. Thank you. Because I think that's a very difficult program to evaluate given the pandemic circumstances. So thank you.
Mr. Said?
Yeah, just one quick question. Something that, I've looked at and I've tried to kind of get more info on, but I haven't been able to, that I think students would be interested in, is about the math coaches program. So can I hear more about kind of what that looks like in schools, when they operate, because I know that that's going to try and make up for some of the learning loss we experienced over COVID. So I just kind of want to know how the math coaches, kind of operate and everything like that.
So I will defer to Dr. Pugh. Dr. Logan to come and speak to that from a curriculum and instruction.
Perfect. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. So we're super excited about our, our math coaches. We have 12 coaches, 9 that will be in our elementary schools and 4 that will be in our middle schools. They are already in schools starting this week, working with teachers, planning. Each coach is going to have 4 or 5 schools. They live in the schools, so they are in the schools constantly. They'll be at each of those schools 2 to 3 times a week, providing specific coaching to teachers, working as they're planning and engaging in curriculum study. In the classroom, offering teachers feedback on instruction, modeling instruction for teachers. And so really that direct coaching with the teachers and the teaching teams as they're planning and implementing instruction and looking at data to see the impact on students.
Okay, perfect. And, after we kind of evaluate them, are we going to look towards possibly expanding the program based on the findings that we get, this year?
We would love that.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I had some questions about slide 7. How did you decide to evaluate? Why Why are these at the top of the list in the universe of all the things that you could have evaluated, particularly in this slide 7?
I couldn't hear the last.
This slide 7.
Yes. Okay, so going from the bottom up, math coaches and academic opportunity specialists are budgeted accelerators.
New this year.
New this year. So, and to what Sammy just, Mr. Saeed, sorry, just asked, really just the questions around the impact, what's the value, and going back to the question in terms of, do we carry them forward, right? Are we seeing a bang for our buck? With the cautionary perspective that it's year 1. So we have to understand that it takes time to really see a change in outcomes. But again, starting early in terms of examining the implementation of these staff. The central program identification bucket of 3 different ones, we've had a lot of questions through the years since the choice study came, and as a district, we increased equity of access for students. And again, we've engaged in some just quick turnaround outcome studies of a 1-year cohort expectation around the performance, but we really want to take an opportunity to look at the multi-year impact of students who were the original cohort of students who are identified, and are they maintaining the outcomes that we would expect for engaging in that program. So really want to be responsive to the questions that have been coming through the years around this, and recognizing the importance of these programs as they continue in the district.
Can I ask you a question about that?
Sure.
So there's the Center for Enriched Studies, but we've also expanded the offerings to schools, the courses.
Yes.
So are you looking at that?
Yes, we can embed that. And so the previous evaluations that we have conducted did include an examination of the local courses that are available at the middle school. And so that would be a part of this examination as well.
I think we've heard a lot from that community in terms of consistency and quality across the school system. And so you're saying we already have?
So we have outcome evaluations connected to that. And what I'm hearing from you is an interest more in some of the implementation aspect as it relates to the programming in terms of consistency, because an implementation evaluation would be warranted to get to that piece. And so that's a modification we could make in terms of an evaluation in that area.
I think it's a piece of the puzzle.
Yes.
Anything about?
2A immersion, again, that was proposed in our original FY24 budget around expansion, continuing to provide information around that so that the decision-making related to expansion is informed by what we're finding, and connecting back to what Ms. Harris raised in terms of the impact of the pandemic on implementation. So really want to be able to take a deep dive into what's happening and ensuring that we are well-positioned to move forward.
I think the Cal reports had some comments about the 2A immersion program as well. And restorative
And then
justice.
circling back to the restorative justice, that was one that we had for the FY24 that we were not able to get to.
Okay.
It also was a recommendation from the anti-racist audit in terms of examining Be Well 365 and the aspects connected to that. So we didn't want to lose that recommendation that came from those external evaluators.
Okay. I did want to ask about the theory of action, professional development for our staff, differentiating resources, and accountability. One thing that I've heard this board say consistently over the years is, how do we know the professional development is working, is effective, people are getting the most out of it? And then also with differentiating resources, okay, we're going to give this school a little bit more reading specialists or more math coaches. How do we know that's working? So have you considered evaluating some of these key aspects of our theory of action so that we know if the intervention is working?
So what I will first begin with is, as you look through the topics that we have, embedded in aspects of some of these program evaluations are pieces of the theory of action. So for example, when we're conducting an implementation evaluation on a topic, I'll go back to structured literacy, we ask participants about the professional learning that they're receiving. So that provides us an opportunity to hear from the individuals who are implementing the work to share with us about the professional learning that they provided from a perspective of did it meet your needs? Did it help you prepare to teach what you needed to teach? So embedded in program evaluation are each of those essential aspects of professional development or building the capacity of staff. The resources piece gets a little tricky, but I think it goes back to what Ms. Rivera-Oven mentioned in terms of being able to determine the per pupil expenditure for some of these things that we will begin to take forward going forward. And then program evaluation is an accountability structure in and of itself. And so that is like the major umbrella, I would say, as it relates to this. I think the other piece that I don't want to be remiss in sharing is that the ongoing program monitoring that happens outside of a program evaluation process is another essential factor that is a structure of accountability to support in that ongoing monitoring of what's happening and the impact. So that allows the program managers to make changes, course corrections, as they're seeing their things being implemented. So as Ms. Yang said, we're a small but mighty team. I have 3 evaluation specialists, so 3. And, you know, we can't get to everything. And so it's important for the program manager, though, to be keeping track of their own data, knowing what's happening. With our technical assistance, we definitely will provide the support and what they should be looking at and helping them shape and monitor data. But they are the owners of the work. We are the objective evaluators of the work and provide recommendations for their improvement around those things.
Okay, well, I'm going to think about what you said. And I also ask you to think about what I'm saying in terms of the differentiation of resources and how do we, as a board, know if that's what's working or not working. And I need to process your answer about the PD embedded in these evaluations because that's such small, I mean, we just saw numbers of thousands and thousands of teachers taking PD. Well, what about that? How effective was that? I get what you're saying, that it's built into this, but what about the bigger summer PD?
And I do know, for example, with district-wide professional learning, the director of that team engages in ongoing program monitoring around the impact of the professional learning provided, but definitely in alignment with what you're sharing, definitely continue to consider how we can better identify ways for you all to understand the impact.
Okay, thank you. And where did you say the timelines were for these?
It should
check the memo, but I didn't see it.
The memo.
End of the memo, okay.
Yes.
All right, well, if Julie says it's there, it's
attachment. I thought it was in the attachment. Yes. Scheduled release should be in the attachment, like the 6th column. Sorry.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? If not, then thank you. I think we have a resolution. Again, this is critically important work. I'm thrilled that we have really focused on doing a strong program evaluation timeline for the year. This is important for our budget process, as you have indicated, Dr. McKnight. And the entire county is interested in seeing what's working and what's not working. So let me see who's reading the resolution.
I have it here.
Okay.
I can. I'll just read one whereas in the resolve. Montgomery County Public Schools employs a comprehensive program evaluation system to provide insights into what is effective and what needs improvement, allowing for adjustments to enhance program outcomes. Therefore, be it resolved that the members of the Montgomery County Board of Education approve the program evaluation plan for the 23-24 school year.
Move approval. Second.
All in favor, raise your hands. And that is unanimous with those present. Thank you so much for the presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Addison.
Okay, we are moving on to our next agenda item, our consent items. I will ask board members if they have any consent items that they need to pull. Ms. Harris.
Yes, item 8.7.
Okay. Ms. Evans?
So can I get a motion?
I'm sorry, did you have any items to pull?
No.
Okay. I need to pull 8.1, just because I need to abstain from that vote. So can I get a motion to pull 8.7 and 8.1?
Move to 8.2, 8.6. The rest of them move together in block.
Okay, so can I get a motion to move all but 8.7 and 8.1 in block.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hands. That's unanimous with those present. Okay, so let's look at 8.7. Ms. Harris.
Yes, just getting an update from Mr. Adams. That is a change order that extends the time for the completion of the Poolsville project. So.
Thank you. Yes, this is certainly one that we have spent quite a bit of time, obviously, at the board table, as well as communicating with families and students about this particular project. This change order is actually more of a contractual change order, and really what that means is the Board of Education is the authority that can change completion dates. Because of the project delays that we've experienced, and again, some of the work, was very early on unforeseen, conditions on the site. But more recently, the stopping of work in order to wait till summer for some of our tasks such as roofing work and a few other things have led to a shift in the occupancy of this building. So we are now looking to occupy the new academic portion of the Poolsville High School project over the spring break of this school year. And why that's important is that obviously will then have a trickle-down effect in terms of phase two. Just to remind everyone, phase one is more the academic portion. It connects that to the science annex that was constructed years ago. And then the phase two work is to come back into the existing building and reconfigure and revise some of the spaces. So we will be coming back to the community. We will be coming back to the board to talk about this phase two work and the timing and what it means to students and the community. But this particular change order is just focused on the shift of occupancy of this first phase.
Thank you very much.
And then with item 8.1, I'm going to abstain from 4971, the supplemental out-of-school time academic support enrichment programs. But why does it say $0? Does anybody have? And I think I saw this at the last board meeting, the same list of out-of-school time providers.
Hello. The list you're looking at, the supplemental, is a revised version just to correct a bid number. So that's why you saw it at the last board meeting. But it says $0 because we got it approved from an original RFP that we put out with the list, and we put out a supplemental, but we're not adding any money, any funding.
Okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so if there's no other questions, then we can move 8.1. We get a motion for 8.1, please.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hands. And that is Mr. Said, Ms. Harris, Mrs. Evans, Ms. Yang, Ms. Wolf, Ms. Rivera Oven, and I am abstaining. And that's our vote. Thank you. And now a motion for 8.7.
Motion.
Can I get a second?
Yes, you may. Second.
All in favor, raise your hands. And that's unanimous with those present. Very good. Moving on to item number 9, which is informational purposes only. Item 10, if we can get a motion to move 11.1 through 11.3 in block.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hands. That's unanimous with those present. Item 10.3, appointment to Strategic Planning Committee. Do we have that for today, Ms. Seabrook?
I thought you just said 10.3.
I thought she said 10.1.
Oh, that's a typo.
10.2 and 10.4.
I have a typo here. I said 11.
Okay.
Okay, so let's do that again. Is there a 10.3 for today or no?
Yes, it's the addition of Ms. Evans to the Strategic Planning Committee.
Okay, so let me redo. Can I get a motion to move 10.1 and 10.2 in block?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hands. That's unanimous with those present. Ms. Seabrook, is there anything to read for that, or?
I can read it in for you. It's the resolved that Mrs. Shebra Evans be appointed to serve as a member of the Strategic Planning Committee until November 30th, 2026. This was the vacancy that was created by the former SMOP.
Okay, can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hands. That's unanimous with those present. Item 10.4, board members, do you have any new business items to bring forward? Seeing none, we can move forward. Item 11 is for informational purposes, and item 12, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hands, and that's unanimous with those present. We are adjourned.